Hello and welcome to Overreacted. It's been a while since I have created something. So in today's series of cloning Indian startup UIs, we are going to clone CRED's UI. So CRED is an Indian fintech startup which is very famous these days. And so I really like the website, so I thought why not clone it. So a little bit about CRED. It's a fintech startup in India started by Kunal Shah, this person right here. So this works mainly in credit card bills payment and famous for its advertising basically. So yeah, without further delay, let's have a look what CRED is actually. The website is at cred.club. The website is quite minimalistic and yet very elegant. There are some eye-catching animations as you can see right on the screen. These are the like 100 view height divs where they are using a background poster. Apart from this, if we dissect further, you will see that some of the components are quite jaw-dropping. Like this particular component here, you keep on scrolling, just the screen in the phone changes. So this is really like great animation right here. Then we have this part where there's like a peek window, then again a similar background poster component, then the story, there's a lot of text on the screen, and then finally the app rating. So this is quite a simple, elegant and minimalistic website. So I really like the concept of CRED's website is through keep the message clear. So today we are going to clone this particular part, this particular website, entire website. So yeah, it will be fun. We'll be using React.js. So if you're a beginner in React.js, don't worry, I'll be explaining each line of code that I'll be writing. So do follow along. So what we'll be learning in this particular video, the first thing is React.js obviously. Second is responsive layouts. So whatever we are going to build will be completely responsive. Let's see how responsive CRED's own website is. So if we go to tablet screen, it will look like this. Okay, and if we go to mobile screen, it will look like this. So the clone that we'll be building will also be completely responsive. So this is the mobile navigation, and if we close this console, next we are going to use JavaScript in this particular video. Obviously React is based on JavaScript, so JavaScript will be used. And finally intersection observer API. This is not some external API. We are not going to sign up anywhere. It's your browser's API that it provides you by default. So it's gonna be fun. So have you ever seen those animations on website, like this particular animation where I'm scrolling and the screen is changing? All these animations are handled by intersection observer API. So if this term is new to you, stick in the video and we'll create this component exactly like this by using intersection observer API. So this is a new method of tracking the scroll progress of user. The older methods were quite heavy on the DOM. So this new method of intersection observer API is quite fast. We'll be using that. So I just showed you the demo. Let's see what we are going to build. So I'll just run it on my localhost 3000. As you can see, this is the clone that I have built. It is exactly similar to the CRED's clone, CRED's actual website. So if you will go down, you will see the same animation here as well, the same background poster components, this particular banner here. Then this is what I'm talking about. This I have created with intersection observer API. So if you follow along, if you'll follow me through the video, you'll also create this using intersection observer API. This looks really great. Like the message here is very clear by CRED. Then this peek window, and finally the App Store ratings. So this is what we are going to build today. As you can see, this is running on my local host, and finally I have my message here made with Fire by Overreacted. So without further delay, let's start building this. To build this, I'll open up my terminal and I'll increase the size a bit so that you can see what's going on my screen. So I'll be using npx create react app. So create react app is an npm package which creates a skeleton or say a template for us on React.js. You can also start it by scratch, but that's a lot of work. So most of the developers use CRA, which is create react app. So the command line is quite simple. You just install CRA if it is not there, or otherwise just start npx create react app. First of all, let's change our destination. I want to create it on desktop. So I'll go to desktop and I'll write npx create react app. Let's call it overreacted CRED. Overreacted CRED. So this will start creating a skeleton, or let's say template for me in React.js. So it's installing React, React DOM, React scripts, and with CRA template. So if this is giving error to you, make sure the node version is higher than 14.0. Otherwise it sure does give error. So this will take a minute or so. Till then I'll pause the video and we'll continue once this is installed. Before starting, if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button so that you get updates whenever I upload a new video. Great. Now, as you can see here, a folder called Overreacted CRED has been created by CRA. Let's open this in our Visual Studio Code. I am going to use Visual Studio Code as my code editor. You can use Sublime Text or any editor that you want, but most of the developers, mainly the front-end developers, prefer using VS Code. So in order to open the terminal, I'll press Command J. So as you can see, these folders here, node modules, which is this public folder, the source folder, all these are given by create react app, the basic template. So there are a bunch of files that we are not going to use, which are just here for the sake of template. So we are going to remove those. The very first is app.test.js. We don't need to test anything. We don't have unit testing right now. So we'll delete that. Second is the logo. Okay, I'll show you what this exactly is. So if I, in my terminal, if I write npm start, I'm just magnifying it a bit so that you can see what's on my screen. If I press command npm start and go to my localhost 3000, you will see this spinning logo of React. If this is coming on your screen, which means that your React app has been set up successfully. So obviously we don't need this logo on our screen. So I'll delete this. I'll delete app.css. I'll also delete app.test.js. You can keep these. It's not harming you anyway, but just to keep stuff clean, I'm deleting it. So now I'll just delete this entire app.js. So I'm going to use a bit of a number of extensions which are provided in VS Code. The few of them are autoclose tag, this one ES7 React Redux React Native snippets. This is quite handy in order to create quick functions in React Native or React. So I'm going to use this. So okay, let's start. If I write RAFCE, this will give me a function and export it by default. So this is what we are going to, here we are going to write all our code. So the very first thing is, let's test this is CRED. If that's coming on our screen, yes, as you can see, this is CRED is coming on our screen. So let's create a folder structure. I'm going to follow the major principles of clean code. I like to keep my code structured. So the very first folder that I'll create is pages. So right now in this application, I just have one page, but let's say if I'm building something on a larger scale, then I might need tens of pages. So therefore I like to keep all my pages in a separate folder called pages. The second one is components. Obviously, if you are building something in React, you are building components in that. So for that, you must have a folder separated, which you will call as components. Then apart from this, I like to have a common folder where I keep my common styles, keep my common constants, fonts and everything in that particular folder. So these are the three folders that we are going to need. So in pages, let's just create one home page because that's all we need. So let's call it homepage.js. So okay, then again here I will say RAFCE. In React, you have to keep your components name in capital letters. Like the first letter should be capitalized, otherwise this will give an error. So here let's say this is homepage, this is homepage, and let's import it in our app.js. So I'll remove this, I'll import my homepage here, and that's it. Now we are not going to touch our app.js any further. Whatever changes we'll do inside our homepage.js file. So now as you can see, this is homepage, this is showing here. So cool then. Okay, so now let's see what kind of stuff we need to build our website. The very first is some assets. So as you can see, this CRED logo will obviously we'll need this logo. Next up we will need these mockup UIs. So, and also can you see the background here? There is a background image here as well. We'll need that also. This background poster as well, these brand logos as well. So all this we'll copy from CRED's website only. But there are some things that we'll have to download from other sources. The very first thing that we'll have to download is the font. So let's, in order to clone some UI or in order to make any UI with a design, you must follow all the guidelines. So the basic thing is to have a same font. So if you'll hover over this, you will see that it is using Gilroy font. So Gilroy is not a free font actually, but surely you can download Gilroy from online. So you might find Gilroy. I'll tell you where this is. You can download this for free. Yeah. So you just go to fontshmons.com and here you can download the font for free. So now once you download it, so I'll tell you how to set it up. It's not a very difficult process, but writing the code to use this in your React application is going to take a like great amount of lines of code. So just unzip this. So once you unzip this, you will see that there are a bunch of TTF files, true type file fonts. These are called the TTF extents for true type font. So we are gonna need the black font. Black is the darkest font. If you will click on this, you will see this is the dark, like the boldest form of Gilroy. Then we will need the bold. We will need extra bold. We will need the light. We will need medium. We will need regular. We will need semi bold. We will need thin. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So we will need these 8 fonts. So I just copied these. I'll go to my desktop. I'll go to overreacted CRED in my source folder, and inside my common folder here I'll just paste it. So after pasting it in this folder, like you can paste it anywhere inside your source folder, so I just pasted it inside my common folder. So now what we will do is we'll create another folder here called styles. So this will keep all my styles, be it theme, be it typography, everything. And inside my styles folder, I will create a fonts folder. Now I'll shift all these files inside my fonts folder. So as you can see, all these are inside my fonts folder. So no, not, yeah, let's keep it outside the styles only. So okay, so these are here. Next thing that we have to do is to import all these fonts into our like component. Like right now, which font we are using, if you will just check it here on our local host, we are using Apple system UI font, whichever is your default font. So in order to use these fonts, just go to index.css, and here you have to define the font family. So it's better to, like, this is going to take a large number of lines of code, so it's better to create a separate file for this and then define the font family there. So inside my fonts folder, I'll create a file called fonts.css, and inside this fonts.css, what we will do is we will create write some code. So the code is font face, and it's an object. In this object, the font family, you have to define the font family, and let's call, you can give it any name. It's better to give it the predefined name so that you don't get confused later on while using it. The font face is Gilroy, and next you have to give the source. So source is local. Here just again write the name, and then you have to give the URL. Now this is the local source, and the URL for this is the path where it is stored. So you don't have to enclose the URL in some quotes or single quote or double quote, just write the path. So the path is the regular one. The starting one, I'll define the regular, and this is true type font. So you have to also define the format, which is true type. Now you might find this code on Stack Overflow or any blog, so you don't have to exactly remember these lines. You just copy it, whatever I'm writing, in order to use the font. Generally what I do, I copy the fonts from Google Fonts, but since this particular font is not available on Google Font, I downloaded this, and you got to know how to use downloaded font in ReactJS as well. So it's a win-win situation, I guess. So just, it's true type. Now you have defined your font for regular. Just copy this, and we will define these like this font face for all of our files. But we need to define one more thing, that is font weight, so that whenever we will give weight, our code will, like, the CSS will apply the relative font. So for font weight of 300, not 300, yeah, 300, let's change it from regular to thin, and this is true type. So the next one, let's copy this here, and the next font is, for font weight of 400 we have regular. For font weight of 500, let's take medium, and similarly for font face of 600 we will take semi bold, and then after this, for font face of 700 we will take bold. We will take bold here, and which is Gilroy dot bold, and then 700. For 800 we will take extra bold. So I guess we don't need black in this particular UI, so I'm gonna skip that particular font. So if you want to give a font weight of 900 as well, you can use the black one as well. So I'll just skip that part particular in this section. So we have defined the font face for all our files. Font face Gilroy regular, which is font weight of 400, 300, 500, 600, 700 and 800. Now we will import this particular file inside our index.css. So here I'll write import, and then I'll write the relative path to this font.css file. So I'll go back, not back, I'll just go here and common styles fonts, and this is my file. Now make sure you are giving a semicolon here, otherwise your CSS will break. Now if you'll see, we have imported our fonts. We just have to change this particular font family here. So for my entire body, I want to change the font family. I want it to be Gilroy. Now I want a fallback font as well. So fallback fonts are those, suppose the network is slow and these files haven't been downloaded on client's website, desktop like browser. So till that moment, there should be a fallback font. So we'll give it sans serif. And apart from this, let's check once that if my font is coming or not. You can see on my screen the font is Gilroy 16 pixel sans serif. So yes, it's working now. The font has been installed. The next thing, a few other default styles that I want to give is box sizing border box. This helps in keeping margins and paddings as expected, as we want as developers. Next up, we have a few files that we would like to create. The first is variables.css. So now that fonts are created, next we need is a variable file. What variable files do is, here I keep all my colors as variable to use throughout my code. I don't want to remember the hex code every time I'm going to use it. So from where I'm going to take these hex code is obviously from CRED's website, since we are cloning CRED. So just go to CRED. The very first color that we'll take is the background color. So I'll hover over this. As you can see, this RGB 15 15 15. If you click on this and click on this, you will get the hex code, which is 0f 0f 0f. Or you can just get any RGB value, HSL value, any value. Just copy this value from here and go to your variables.css file. Now in your variables.css file, you must have noticed that we always have a root in our React application. So if you'll open your console, you will see we have a root here as well. So inside your root, we would like to declare our variables. So we will say root, and in your root we'll declare a CSS, and let's give this name. So the common structure is 2 hyphen and then whatever name you want to give to your variable. So we'll call it bg black, which means background black, and then we'll paste the hex code value. As you can see, this is 0f 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 0f. Similarly, we want our text to be white on our website. So as you can see, the text is in the hex code of, you can go to computed and you can see RGB 248 248 248, which is also in hex code. This is F8 F8 F8. So what we will do is we will say text, or just let's say white. So white is this, and we did not copy it, sorry. So I'll just copy it from here, which is F8 F8 F8. I'll write it F8 F8 F8. So yeah, so this is the white color that we are going to use on our website. Now let's import these this variable file as well in our index file. So right now you might find it a very tedious task to do this unnecessarily, but believe me, once you start developing using these variable, the common classes, these fonts will make your work a lot faster. So what we'll do is we'll go to that particular file again and done. Also give a semicolon here, otherwise this will give error. So now throughout my body, I want my background color to be black. So I'll say background color. I'll give it a variable. This is how you use variable in CSS file, and we'll see bg black. As you can see now, if I go to my local application, you'll see the entire body is black. Similarly, we want to give color. So color is for anything that is on the background, which mainly means the text. So for this I want variable and I want white. So as you can see, my text is white here. So pretty much done. Our basic setup is done. From here onwards, let's start building. So the very first thing that I would like to build is this hero section. This particular section that you see, not this you mockup UI section, this particular section, from this label to this heading, reward for paying bills, then this subheading and a button. So this is the hero section I like to call, which you get when you land on the page. So let's start by building this particular hero section. So in order to create this hero section, let's go to our code, and inside our components, let's create a folder known as hero section. So this is my common structure that I follow. I create a folder in capital letters, like the common component format, which is the first letter should be capital. And inside this, I'll create a file called index.js. And here I'll export a component by RAFCE, which is a snippet basically. And I'll name this as hero section. So this will be my hero section functional component, which I'll export from here, and I will use it here. So let's remove this home page and let's import our hero section. So as you can see, this is imported automatically. If it is not imported automatically, make sure you are importing it from the right relative path. Now inside my hero section, I'll create a CSS file as well, hero section. So you must have noticed that I'm using camel casing for naming my CSS file, but not for my folders. So this is the difference between component and CSS files that I make. So inside my hero section, let's see what we will need. So you must have seen that CRED is giving a lot of space here on both the sides throughout the website. Like even if you go here, you will see there is a lot of space between the text and the border of the screen. Similarly here as well. So it's better to create a common class and use it everywhere to reduce the number of lines of code that we are going to write. So the very first thing let's do is let's go to styles and create a file called common classes. Here we will keep all our common classes. So the very first common class that we will create is a max width. So this will restrict the maximum width our components can take. So I will give it a max width of 70%. And also, since my component will take 70% of the width, it will be stick to the starting of the screen and there will be a lot of space at the end. So we'll have to give it a margin auto as well. Margin auto. So this will make sure that our entire component is in center. So, but our width will have to change, because if we are using a mobile and if we'll take only 70% of the screen of mobile, then it will be too small. So for that, we'll have to write media queries in CSS as well for mobile and for screens lesser than the size of a large laptop. So in order to write media queries, I hope you know this part of CSS, which is media all, and here you have to define your breakpoints. So I'll say maximum width. So for all the screens for the maximum width means maximum width dimension should be 1279 pixel. Now you'll be thinking, why only 1279? Why not any pixel? You can take any pixel you want. You can create any breakpoint. But since we are cloning CRED, I just checked it from CRED that what breakpoint they are using. So you will see, like if I reduce the screen size a little, let's say here, and I go to any of the component like this, you will see they are using 1279 pixel. So therefore, whatever design you are building, decide at that moment that what breakpoints are you going to use. There is no hard and fixed rule for that. So for 1279 pixel, let's say the maximum width should be let's say 80%, not 90, 80%. Similarly, for a screen size lesser than tablet, let's go and let's call it 767. Again, this value is copied from CRED because we are cloning CRED. So for that, I want a maximum width of 90%. Now all my components will take, wherever I'll give this class, my component will take only this much of width. Now that we are on the common classes screen file, let's create some few other common classes that we'll be using everywhere. The very first is flex. Now you must know that flex is a very great property of CSS which help us to design responsive layouts. So I'll say display flex. So you will see why I created this class here only. It will be a lot easier to use it further in the entire code base. And suppose I want to like center or any like element in my screen. For that I'll use absolute center class. Now what it will do, like you can't use this class alone. Let me see what properties I'm using here. Justify content center and align item center. So these two are properties of flex. So whenever I'll use this and this class together, this will center my element wherever I'm using it. So these two classes are very helpful throughout my code base. Similarly, at some places I might have to change the flex direction. So by default, if you'll see flex direction, so by default it is by row. So let's open any image. So as you can see, the default direction of flex is like this. If you want components to stack on each other, then you will have to specify the direction as column. So let's say flex col. This particular class will specify my direction. So column. So defining these three classes here will help us further. So let's go to hero section, and we'll start from here. So in order to create this, let's create a wrapper for this entire screen. This is the exact hero section that we see. So now in the hero section, you must be seeing that this part is at the exact center, this label is at the exact top, and the rest is white space. White space means space which is not being used. So we will call this as, we'll give this a class name called hero section wrapper. This will wrap our entire hero section. So what I will do is I'll just write the HTML part first, and then we'll give the CSS part later on after writing the skeleton first. Now inside this skeleton, I want to use my, so these things are stacking upon each other, and these are at center as well. So you must have known that I just defined the classes that we'll be using. So I'll create a div and I'll call it, give it a class name of flex, so that whatever I'll write inside this will be displayed as flex. But and also I want everything to be at center, absolute center, so that everything will be at the center of my screen. And so if I'll see that I am writing this, okay, so if you'll go there, you can see, okay, so I haven't I haven't imported my common classes. So make sure that you're importing your common classes, otherwise the classes won't be the properties won't be applied. So the path is really simple: common styles and then common classes. Now also there is some error, give a semicolon and done. Now as you can see, it is centered automatically. Okay, so in my hero section, the very first property that we need is flex. We need absolute center. Also we need it as column. As you can see, these things are stacking upon each other. So let's call it as flex column. Flex column. So apart from this, this is our main hero section. So we'll call this hero section. And I want to give a padding wherever necessary, because if you'll see, even if at the mobile screen, there is some padding to this screen. There is some padding here and here. So let's call it max width. Now this will make sure that we have sufficient padding in our screen, not vertical padding. I'm talking about horizontal padding. So since there is not much text, I'll just write some gibberish. I'll write more gibberish. Yes, as you can see, there is some padding automatically applied to this. So I'll remove this gibberish here. This was just to show you that the padding is being applied. So now as you can see, in my CRED's website, there is this heading here. So let's start with the heading. So I'll use a div, and inside this I'll just copy whatever is written here. So I'll just copy this. Okay, so you must be thinking that why I'm not using h1, h2, h3. So it's necessary that you use those whenever you're building something, but just for the sake of simplicity, I'll prefer using div so that I can style them whatever way I want. So let's give it a class name of hero heading. So this is the class name structure that I follow. I just give it a prefix to distinguish. Suppose I have a heading in some other file as well. So that I don't get confused, my chunks don't get confused. Therefore I give it a prefix as well. So apart from a heading, it has a subheading as well. So let's call our subheading, and let's copy the text, whatever text is here, and I'll paste the text here. So our subheading is here. Now let's give it a class name, and it is hero subheading. So now my hero subheading is here. Next to subheading, you can see a download button. Now, one thing that you should always notice in React is to reuse the code as much as possible. So if you'll scroll down, you will see a similar button here, a similar button here, a very similar button here as well. And similarly, same buttons are here as well. So why not create a single component and reuse it everywhere? This is the essence of React, to reuse the components. So what we will do, inside our components folder, we'll create a common folder where we'll keep all our common components, whatever we will be building. So the first is a button. So we'll create an index file, index.js. We'll push type RAFCE, and then we'll call it button. So similarly, I'll create a CSS file here, which is button.css. Now let's import the CSS file. Import button.css. Now what we'll do is we will pass a text, button text, whatever we want to display in our button, and then show it here. This will make sure that our button is reusable, entirely reusable. So the first property that I would like to take here is, so you must know that React takes props here. So whatever prop you pass, this will be this is passed in this props object, or you can directly destructure in React by passing in the curly braces and writing whatever you want. So I want a button text and an on-click function. Obviously, I want an on-click function since I'm not going to apply any functionality to this website, but it is necessary that you follow all the principles. So there is an on-click function as well. And suppose for any common class, suppose here in this button, you are predefining some styles. But what if you want to reuse this button and reduce the style, like change the style? Suppose here in this button, as you can see, the size is much smaller, the font size is smaller. So for that, you must always, for all the common components, take some custom properties. So I'll say custom class as well. So as well, apart from this, you can see that for this button, it's just text, like here and here, but at some places there is a prefix as well, like there is this image as well. So let's take a prefix as well, prefix. So these 4 properties I'll take in my button, and it's just a simple button. So I'll just write a class name. So first of all, I want everything to be centered in my button. So I'll say flex absolute center. Now you must have seen that the power of using common classes. I did not have to write the 3 lines again and again. I just use these 2 classes, and everything inside my button will be automatically centered. Next, I'll create a common class, which is button wrapper. That's it. Now whatever I have, I will, like suppose if I have a prefix, I'll render it here, and next to our prefix, I'll render my button text. So this will be done. But now I am not using this on click and custom class. Let's use this. So on click. So on clicking this button, whatever function you will pass to this prop will be applied here. Now in order to use custom class, we can't use directly in this class name since it's a string. We'll have to leverage the power of React here again. We will be using string template. So let's remove this. Let's enclose this in a curly braces and give this a backticks. This backtick will convert this into a string template. Now I can use the $sign and use any variable I want. So this is a React property, and that's why I love React. You can manipulate strings, you can manipulate everything in React. So now whatever custom class you will pass will be automatically applied here. So that's it. Let's write the CSS for our button wrapper. So if we'll go here just write the button wrapper. Now how the very basic property of any button is that you need a cursor to be pointer. Apart from this, let's see what all it needs. The background is white here, it's not black. So I want background color to be variable white. Great. Now that background is white, we obviously need the color to be black, otherwise it won't be visible. So we will need color to be BG black. So whatever we will write will be in black and the background will be white. Next to this, I will need a font size. Now, how to decide the font size? I'm not going to decide it by myself. Since I'm following I'm cloning something, or let's say I have been given a design, so always make sure that your font size is resembling that. Don't just write anything that comes to your mind. So if I go here and I can see the font size for this is 24 pixel. So I'll write this 24 pixel here. So I'll write font size 24 pixel. Next to this, I'll write font weight as well. Similarly, why font weight again? Because I just checked on the button. It's it's bold here. As you can see, it's bold here. Gilroy bold. As you can see, Gilroy bold, right? Gilroy bold. So bold is font weight 700 for us. So font weight 700. And next padding. Again, I saw from that inspect element that the padding is 20 pixel vertically and 65 pixel horizontally. And apart from padding, I need a border radius to make it curved. So the border radius should be 40 pixel. Now what will happen is wherever we will use this button, it will take our entire width. So I want it to take the maximum possible width of the content. So I will say width to be max content, which means take the width only that much amount of width which is necessary for you. Otherwise don't take extra width. Now similarly, font size of 24 pixel will be very large for mobile screens. So I'll write it again for mobile screen. So I'll write media all and max width. The max width for my mobile is 767 pixel, and for this I want the button wrapper. So this is how you write media query. I'm expecting you know how to write media queries. If not, just write this single line, media all or only screen, whatever you want, and whatever property breakpoint you want, minimum width, minimum height, maximum height, and then change the classes here. So button wrapper, I want the font size to be 18 pixel and I want the padding to be reduced a little. So I'll say padding is 16 pixel and 24 pixel. Now this will reduce the padding in the mobile screens. So this is it. Our button component is ready. Now we'll just use the button component in our hero section. So here I'll call my button and I'll pass my button text, which is download CRED. So CRED is in capital, CRED. Now if you'll go here and you'll see the button looks exactly similar to this. Our button is ready. We just now have to design this heading, this subheading, and we'll be done for the landing page except for this label. Then we'll create this label as well. So let's go here, and as you can see that, yeah, so far so good. Our main part of the landing page is ready. We just have to change the classes. Let's take a look at the classes name and then we'll write the CSS for it. The very first we have hero section wrapper. Okay, so why do we need a hero section wrapper here? Because let me write the class name, then I'll explain. Hero section wrapper. Okay, so because you'll see this label is at the top and this is in an absolute position to my entire wrapper. So therefore I just want to give one property here, which is position relative. That's it. So my main wrapper is now at a relative position, and in relation to that, for whatever element, if I give a position of absolute, that will be at an absolute position to that relative component. So hero section wrapper is relative. That's it. I don't have to give any other property to this wrapper. Now next component is hero section, right? So the next component is hero section. For my hero section, I want minimum height to be of 100 view height, which means whatever is the height of my screen, I want this particular section to have that height. And I want text align to be center. So text align to be center, so that whatever text I will be writing, be it sentence, word, everything is centered. Next up we have heading. Hero heading. So for my heading, I want the font size of 106 pixel. Again, I check this font size from CRED's website only. If we'll go here and you will reduce the screen size, you can see the font size here is, okay, let me just do this. For large screens, the font size is 106 pixel. As you can see, font size is 106 pixel. So I'm taking it this from here. The font size is 106 pixel and the font weight is 700. If you look at our website and if you refresh it, okay, just a minute. Are we not importing these styles? Okay, we are not importing the CSS file. Just import the CSS file, which is hero section dot css. Now if you'll go here, you can see rewards for paying credit card bills. Now our UI is coming to the point where we can resemble it from a CRED's website. So let's close this, and you can see rewards for paying credit card bills, and here also rewards for paying credit card bills. Now we just have to style this subheading. So I'll go to my CSS file, and for my subheading I'll write hero subheading. So for my subheading, the first thing is obviously my font size, which is 30 pixel. Now again, I check this from CRED's website. You can also check it. Font weight, I want it to be 700, which is bold. Then I want it to have a margin of top and bottom as well, because you can see there is some space between the heading, subheading and the button. So let's give it a margin top of 35 pixel, top and bottom is of 35 pixel, and left and right is of 58 pixel. So you must be aware of writing different ways of margin and padding. Just Google it once. There are 3-4 ways of writing margin and padding, so you must be aware of this. Now if you'll see, for smaller screens, I'll just show you what I mean. So these two lines are quite closer, whereas if I'll inspect it, and my lines have a little bit of height difference, so I'll give another property here called line height, so which will restrict the line height to whatever I'll define. So I want it to have a line height of 38 pixel. You can check this line height from your design guidelines if you have, or you can just copy it from wherever you're cloning it. Or if you're creating your own website and if you think that there is too much of gap between two lines, then you can reduce this line height as well. So I guess that's it. Now we just have to make it responsive, because I don't want it to have a 106 pixel height in mobile. So we'll have to write the media queries for these classes again. So I'll say media all and max width, which is 1279 pixel, which is for screens lesser than a laptop but greater than a tablet. For this, the heading, I'll target the heading first. So for heading, I want the font size to be 82 pixel and the line height to be 92 pixel. So you can try and test out all the line heights that you want. Whatever fits suits, just keep it that way. Next up, we want hero subheading. The subheading, I want the font size to be of 25 pixel. That's it. And so if you'll see here, the font is coming our way. Next up, we want it to be for mobile sizes as well. So I'll just copy this part and we'll paste it here. I'll change this breakpoint to 767. The font size should be changed. So for heading, I want it to be of 55 pixel. The line height, I want it to be 47.5 pixel. And next thing that I want is, I want it to have a maximum width, because you can see if I go to this, it is not extending to the end, it's restricting itself to a maximum width. So I want it to have a width of 270 pixel, and also there is some gap between this and this. So I will give it a margin top of let's say 60 pixel. So, and then hero subheading as well, we'll have to give a font size of 16 pixel, a line height of 22 pixel, and finally a margin of 35 pixel on top. Let's say margin of 35 pixel vertically, but I don't want any horizontal margin. Similarly, this is done. So now you can see this is CRED's, and this is our website where this is coming. But as you can see, this is not sticking to the edge of this screen. So for that, I will have to style my hero section, the main section as well. So let's say hero section. For hero section, I want the align items to be at flex start, which means stick it to the start of my flex like this. And I want text align to be left, and that's it. Now you can see it's coming like how we wanted it to be, and I want it to give a minimum height of 70 view height. Minimum height of 70 view height. Now if I look, and if you reduce the screen size, You can see it's looking exactly like CRED's website. So this part is done here. Now we just have to create this particular label that we have. So in order to create this label, let's go to our hero section index file, and here on top of this particular div, let's create another div. So for this div, I want few basic things that you can see in the label is that it's again in flex, it's everything is centered. So obviously we'll use the common classes here, which is flex and absolute center. Absolute center. The next thing that I'll give it a particular class name, which is hero claim label. So this is a claim, the text is in claim text, so I just give it a class name. You can give any class name you want, just make sure that the class names are distinguishable and you can understand what that class name represents for. Just don't give any random class name. Next up we have some text, so let's keep it inside a div, and I'll copy this here, and next to this div I have another div. So for this particular thing, claim now, which is in a different color, there is an arrow as well. For this div, let's call this claim anchor. Claim anchor. So in this anchor we have a text called claim now, and then we have an image. I thought this will be an icon, but since CRED is using an image here, we will also copy this particular link. So for this I'll copy link address. No, not link address. I'll see what image they're using. Is this image. I'll copy this. If you'll open this URL in another tab, you will see this particular arrow icon. So I'll paste it inside the source, and then I'll give it a class name as well, which is claim arrow. Claim arrow. Let's close this image tag and save this. I'll remove this space from here. So this is it. The HTML part of our claim tag is done. We have a text, we have a claim now, and we have a arrow icon as well. Let's close this. As you can see, this part is done. So next up, what we have to do is we have to style this particular claim label. So let's again go to our CSS file, and let's start writing CSS for our claim label. So we'll start with hero claim label. Let's start it here. Hero claim label. Now inside my hero claim label, I want it to have a background color what CRED has given. So let's copy the hex code very first. So the hex code is this, RGB 393939. So let's go to variables.css and give it a variable name of bg gray. So this is bg. So if you want to change it to hex, you can change it from here as well. So this is 2727 and 27. Coming here, we have a background color of where bg gray. This. So we have bg gray. Next, I want it to have a width of 100%. 100% of the width of my screen. As you can see, it is extending from this end to this end. So let's give it a width of 100%. Then I want it to have a position of absolute. If you have noticed, we have given a position relative to a wrapper, and this is in absolute position. And then we want it to have a height of, let us say, 72 pixel, and a line for the text inside this. I want the font size to be 25 pixel, and I want the line height of the font text to be 30 pixel. Similarly, I want the font weight to be 600. Again, I check these styles from CRED's website only, so you can verify it from there. So now if we look at it, this is looking exactly how we want it. We just have to give some space here and style this anchor accordingly. Also give it the color that we want. So for the hero, the claim arrow, which is our arrow, that particular arrow image, I want the height to be of 11 pixel. The width will be adjusted accordingly, and I want it to have a margin. So a margin top of 7 pixel, a margin left right of 0 pixel, and then 8 pixel from this 8 pixel from left. This is for right and this is for bottom. So after my claim arrow, I'll also style my claim anchor. So this arrow is styled, this particular part is claim anchor, so let's give it style this as well. So for claim anchor, to style the claim anchor, we'll need this color as well. So to copy the color, let's just go here and copy this particular RGB value, and as you know we have to put it inside this. So let's call it link blue. So let's paste it here, and coming to our hero section CSS file, for the claim anchor let's call it a color of variable link blue. So if you'll see it now, this is our code. Yes, this is looking exactly same. We just have to give some margin left. I want this to have 17 pixel. Yep, this is looking exactly same as of this. If you close this, this is looking exactly same. We just have to put the header, and our UI will look very similar. Next up, we just have to style these anchor arrow for mobile and tablet sizes. So because we are creating a responsive layout, we have to do this all the time. So for this, for my screen sizes of more than a tablet, I just want the claim anchor, because the claim anchor will go down here. I don't want it to have a left margin, so I want it to have a margin left of 0 pixel. And similarly for my mobile, I want the size of the arrow icon to be a little smaller. So what I will do is claim arrow, I'll say height of 6 pixel will do, and similarly I want the margin to be little less, because it won't be good to have a margin of 7 pixel and 8 pixel when the size of the icon is 6 pixel. So let's give it 2 pixel, 0 pixel, 0 pixel and 3 pixel. This will do. Also the entire label will look too large. The 72 pixel will be a lot for mobile screen, so let's reduce it. So let's call it hero claim label, and for this let's give it a height of 55 pixel, and let's also change the font size a little bit. Let's call it 13 pixel. And now if you will see, this is responsive and our entire hero section is done. So for tablet, for mobile and for laptops, this is done. Let's start building the header component next. Let's start with the header of the CRED's website. So let's go to our components common. Now header is generally a common component which is used throughout the website. So it's good to keep the header inside your common folder. So let's create a folder called header, and let's create a file called index.js. I'll just minimize this button now that we don't need it. RAFCE, and let's call it as header. Now this is our header functional component. It is also exported. Let's create a CSS file quickly. So which is header.css, and let's import the CSS file inside our index file header.css. Now let's call this header file inside our home page. So on top of this, obviously let's do this, and done. I want my header to be there. So in React you cannot call two adjacent objects. You have to wrap this entire inside a fragment or a div or something. So it's good to use a fragment, React fragment. React fragment is just this empty tags. So this is a feature of React. So now next to my header I have my hero section. So if you'll see, my header is not visible because there is nothing inside the header. So if you go to your header and if you write something, this should be visible here. Yes, this is visible. So let's now create our header. So in order to create our header, let's understand the skeleton of the header. So on CRED's website, this is our header. There's a exact max width class will be used here. Then we have two components. This is the left part, we have a logo. On the right part we have nav links, the credit score check, credit card, bill payment. It's all good as long as we are on the desktop. Now on mobile we have this hamburger menu, and there is a very sweet animation here as well. Like when you press on the hamburger menu, it changes into cross, and then we have a mobile navigation menu which comes from the right hand side. So we'll be creating this entire let's say header, hamburger menu, and the mobile navigation menu as well. So let's start this. I'll call this very first this as mobile menu wrapper, because entire menu will be wrapped by this mobiles component which is coming from my right side. You can write any class name that you want. Just make sure that you understand your class names and others get a context what's happening whenever they read the class names. So mobile menu wrapper. Now inside this wrapper, the first one is now let's start by creating the desktop first, right? So for desktop, let's create a div, and inside this div let's give it a class name of flex, obviously, because as you can see this is a flex. All my components are like displayed in a row and it's in a flex, so let's call it flex. And after flex, let's give it a max width, which is our common class again, max width. And then let's give it a final class name, which is the header, default header. Now inside my header, as you can see on the left hand side, we just have an image. The source is obviously this, so I'll copy this copy image address, I'll paste it here. Again, a disclaimer, the copyright for this logo is obviously CRED's. I am not taking any authority over this logo, sorry for the using it for educational purposes. And next, let's give it a class name called header logo, and let's close this. Now if you'll go to our website, you can see the logo is here. Now we'll style this logo later on. Let's write the HTML part first. So next to our logo, we have a div. Now inside this div, we have two things, two nav links, this credit score check and credit card bill payment. So let's write it first. The first is credit, let's copy it from here only, why to write it. So let's, okay, I'm copying it because I don't want to make any spelling mistakes or any change in the text, so therefore I'm copying it from here. And yeah, the next is this as well. So now that we have written it, now let's again create two more common classes. Now you must have seen that some components on CRED's website we might need in mobile and some not in the mobile. So it's good to have a common class for that called non-mobile and only mobile, so that we'll just give the class name and that particular component will be displayed on mobile and will be removed from our view in the desktop. So let's go to common classes and let's write two more classes. The very first class is obviously only mobile and the other one is non-mobile. So for this particular component here, for only mobile, we'll have to define another media query. So media all, and for this we are not going to write maximum width, we'll say minimum width for this should be 766 pixel, which is 1 pixel less than this pixel. And here I'll say dot only mobile, and for this I'll say display none, which means, and I'll give it as important, so which means that if the screen width is greater than 766 pixel, then for those components which are only for mobile, they won't be displayed, so therefore display none. And the other component that we need is non-mobile. So non-mobile are those components which is not displayed on mobile. So this is our breakpoint for mobile, right? So here I'll define non-mobile. For this I'll say display none, and which is important. So which means some of the components will be only displayed on mobile by this class only mobile, and some will be only displayed on desktop and tablet by non-mobile class. So creating these two common class will help us a lot in creating our responsive layouts. So inside my header, let's again go to header, and in here in my header, as you can see, these two nav links are not visible in mobile. So obviously we will have to give it a class name of non-mobile, and it's also a flex. So next to this, let's give it this thing also a class name. Let's call it a header nav item, and let's copy this class name here as well. Now as you can see, this is visible. As you can see, these two are visible, but if I reduce my screen size, both the links are removed from my view. So their display is set as none for these two nav links from here. So good, that's we have created. Now we need a hamburger menu icon. So this menu icon is known as Hamburger Menu, if you don't know this. So the animation is very sweet, subtle. So what we'll need, we won't be creating this animation by ourselves. We'll use Hamburgers by Jonathan. So let's go here. So this is a very great and useful website. This is open source as well. So for any of the style that you want, you can just see which style you want and you can implement it. So implementing it is quite easy. Just go to the source code. Go to the source code. You don't have to link the entire file because this will make your code chunky. You just copy this base class first of all and till here, and I will paste this inside our common class. So that's again another benefit of using common classes. We'll just paste the hamburger base here, and then we'll see which design we want. Again, I'll open it, hamburger by Jonathan. Let's see which design we want. We want spin, right? So we'll copy the style for spin. Okay, so this is the style for spin. Let's copy this particular part and paste it here. So we don't have to install anything, we don't have to download anything or link anything, we just have to do this. Now one thing is there, as you can see, sorry, the color by default is black. So since we are using a black background already, this won't be visible for our components. So for this, it's better that you change this to our desired color, right? So for header, we are using a different color here. So for our header, as you can see, we are using white. So it will be visible only if the color is white, right? So let's give it a where white, where white. In fact, let's do one thing. Just a second, there must be another one here as well. Let's change it to white, and that's it. Let's do one thing. Since this is type of an animation, not a class, I'll cut it from here. I'll create one more file called animations.css. Since we are going to create a lot of animation in this particular clone, so it's good to keep all our animations separate from here. So inside my animations, this is what we have done. And also the size, I think, is quite large. 40 pixel for our mobile screen will be a lot. For desktop, 40 pixel width and 24 pixel height is good. But for what, let's say for a mobile, this is too large. And we need this hamburger only on mobile. So let's reduce it. Make sure you are reducing it in an aspect ratio only. Don't just reduce it, otherwise it will look distorted. Also, we'll change it here as well. That's it. I guess we are done. We just have to write one more thing. Since this hamburger, you must be aware of the z-index property. Z-index is like stacking components on top of each other. So let's say this menu is at a z-index of 1, which will make sure that it is overlapping our body. So that in order to overlap this menu, we'll have to give this hamburger a z-index of 2. So what I will do is I'll go to this hamburger here and I'll give it a z-index of 2. So this will make sure that our icon is always visible no matter where we are. So now that we have written the classes for this, let's import this inside our folder here, index file here. Let's say import common styles animation.css. Great, just put a semicolon and done. So now inside our header, we are here in the header, we'll have to copy this thing from here. Just go to yes, we will need to copy this. Let's paste it inside our header. But again, one thing is there, that this hamburger menu is only visible on mobile. So obviously we will use our common class here. Let's paste this here, and for this wrapper I'll use a common class called only mobile, so that this is only visible in mobile. And let's give it a class name as well, mobile menu button wrapper. Don't worry if the class names are too big. It's better to write big names than writing misleading and ambiguous or arbitrary names. So hamburger box, let's give this a so whatever type you want, you just read the documentation here. Whatever type you want, you write it like this in your button class. So we want it to spin, so we'll write hamburger spin. So this will make sure that our hamburger is spinning. Also, we have to give a class called isActive. Now what isActive will do is, like, if you'll see, this is the normal state. When I click on this is in a cross state, so this is active state. So first of all, we'll have to make sure that we are maintaining the state. So let's say const show mobile mob menu. This is a state. We'll say set show mob menu and use state. Now use state is a React hook that I'm going to use, and by default I'll give it a value of false. So use state is a React hook that we'll be using, where we are creating a state and we are creating a setter function. So whatever state we have created, this setter function will change the state whenever we will call this. So this is the common norm to write a use state like declaration. You give the name to your state and you write a setter function for this in this way. So also we'll write a toggle mobile menu. So toggle mobile menu. This will make sure that whenever we click on our hamburger menu, our mobile menu will open. So show mobile menu is by default false, which means this is not being shown. I'm talking about this mobile menu, this particular screen. So whenever this is pressed, I'll say set show mobile menu to whatever is not the value of show mobile menu, which means if it is false, make it true. If it is true, make it false. So if it is visible, make it gone, and if it is not visible, like bring the mobile menu. So this will do that particular part. Now on our button, let's pass this function. On click, let's pass toggle mobile menu. Now this will make sure that our functionality is implemented. Like as you can see, this is not changing to cross icon because we are not passing the isActive class. So now in order to pass inactive class, we'll have to again change this class name into a template string literal template. So encapsulate it inside a backticks, and now write $, and we'll see if show mobile menu is true. Show mobile menu is true. This is a ternary operator, sorry, which means that if this is true, then pass the class name of is active. So is active, otherwise don't pass. So this means that whenever our show mobile menu value is true, is active will be applied to this button, and hence it will change to a cross icon. So this will make sure that now you can see this is animating beautifully. Now we just have to position these things, and we have to write the we have to create this mobile menu as well. So let's do one thing. Let's create the mobile menu first, and then we'll style everything. So okay, above this thing, since this is going to overlap above everything, I'll be writing the code for this above everything as well. So let's create a div here. Inside this div, let's give this div a class name first of all. Let's call it mobile menu, and since this is only visible on mobile, I'll say only mobile. The next thing is we have to give it another property of overlay, which means that we'll have to make sure that it is overlaying above everything. So let's give it a class name of overlay as well. Now, but I want overlay to be there only when this thing. I want it to be visible only when this button is active, like show mobile menu state is true. So again, I'll change this from a string to a string literal, and like this, and then I'll say that if show mobile menu is true, then add a class of overlay, otherwise don't add. Now I'll tell you what this overlay means when we'll write the CSS for this. So next up, this is the wrapper for our entire mobile menu. Inside my mobile menu, I'll create a div, and I have two components. These two components I'll just copy from here. I'll paste it, and I'll change the class name for this. Instead of header nav item, I'll say mobile nav item. And this is mobile nav item. Perfect. Also, I'll give this a class name of mobile navbar. So that's it, our HTML part is done. Now if you'll see in our code, if I click on this, it is changing. We have both the mobile menu items here as well. And if I go from mobile to tablet, my entire mobile view is gone. This is my desktop view. Now let's just style this particular header component. So in order to style this, we'll start with the very first, that is our header. For our header, we'll say justify content space between, which means push everything to the extreme ends of our screen. So as you can see, this logo and this particular nav items are pushed from away from each other. So I'll say justify content space between. So next to justify content, I'll say align item center, which will make sure that everything is vertically aligned to the center. Now I want it to have a padding 60 pixel top, 0 pixel horizontally, 40 pixel bottom. So now if you'll see, the padding is there. Next to my padding, I want the logo, header logo. I want the logo size to be of 66 pixel. So I check this size from CRED's website only, so you can check it from there as well. After the logo, let's style these nav items here. So to style this, let's take the class which is header nav item. Nav item, let's give it a font size of 18 pixel, quickly 18 pixel, a font weight of 600, which is semi bold, and then a margin of, from top I want it to have 0, 20 pixel, 0 pixel, and finally 36 pixel from left. So this will style my header nav item. As you can see, this is exactly like CRED's website. So yeah, this is exactly like CRED's website. So next thing that I want to style is, now this is styled. Let's see the mobile menu wrapper, which is the wrapping element for my entire mobile menu. This should always be relative. Then only I can give an absolute position to my mobile menu, which is hidden from the screen. So I'll say mobile menu wrapper. I'll give it a position of relative. That's it. Next up, we have a mobile menu button wrapper. So as you can see here, this mobile menu wrapper is given a position of relative. So now my mobile menu should be absolute, fixed and absolute, so that it is hidden from the screen. So let's target this. Let's target dot mobile menu. Now let's give it a position of fixed, and let's give it a background color of, let's copy it, the background color from CRED's website only. So the background color is this, RGB 15 15 15. Let's go to our variables. Let's say mobile BG, which is I guess this is 0f 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 only. So we already have BG black for that, so I won't paste it here. So I'll say where BG black. So this will give it a background color of similar to the black that we already have. Then I want it to display as flex. We can also use the common class here, but let's just write it here. Flex direction, I want it to have a flex direction of column, because I want everything to be stacked on each other. Next up, we are using transform property, translate text. Translate text means from its own origin point, which means wherever I'm standing right now, move X, which means move on the horizontal scale by 100%, which means move out of the screen by 100%, just disappear from the screen. Next up, we need it to have a height of 100 view height, which means whatever my screen size, take it whole. As you can see, this menu is taking the entire height and the entire width. So height is this and width is also 100 view width. Next, after height width, I want the text align to be left. After text align, I want a padding of 32 pixel, which means from top, bottom, left, right, everywhere 32 pixel. And I want the position to be 0 pixel top, fixed. Since this is fixed, I want it to be 0 pixel from top. So whatever is my relative position, from that I want it to have a 0 pixel of from top, and from left I want it to have 0 pixel. So next up, we need a little bit of animation for this. So as you can see, this has a little bit of animation, this menu here. So for this I will write transition. I'll say transform, which means whenever I'm translating, just take 0.3 seconds, and ease in out, this is a function basically, and this will take 0 seconds. And next up I want it to have a z index of 1. So that's it, that's up for my mobile menu. And if I go here, let's reduce the screen size. As you can see, my mobile menu is not visible right now because okay, so we are not bringing it to the screen. Currently it's translate text to 100%. We have to reduce it to 0% by a class. Now if you remember, I told you that we will need this overlay class. So when it is true, we will need this overlay class to transform it back into our view. So what we will do here is we will say overlay class, and I'll say transform translate x to 0%, 0 pixels. So bring back to wherever it belongs, right? So now here it is. Now as you can see, my this icon is hidden. It is there, but it is hidden somewhere here. So we'll have to give a z index of 2 for that. So what I will do is I'll give a z index of 2 for my that particular icon. So in order to give that, I'll have to give it a class name as well. So this class name I have already given, mobile menu button wrapper. Let's copy this, and for this class let's say z index of 2. So you know, z index is like stacking. So I'm stacking it at position 1. Everything is at by default at position 0. So this will come on top of everything, and this will come on top of this. So now you can see my cross icon is visible here. So yep, this is working great. So next up we have to style the other component here, which is our mobile navbar icons, mobile navbar items, this thing and this particular component. So for that, let's say okay, so for this we have mobile navbar, our class mobile navbar. So for mobile navbar, I'll say margin top of 95 pixel, because you see this is sticking to the top, it's going above the cross icon, so we want to bring it below. So I'll say 95 pixel, and I'll say overflow y it to be hidden, that sorry scroll, that if suppose we are using a screen size which is very small, I want it to be scrollable. And then I'll say width of 90%. So as you can see, this is working really nice. Great. Then after the navbar, I have to style the navbar item. So I have mobile navbar item. So for mobile navbar item, let's give it a padding of 15 pixel, and then we have margin bottom, because you can see there is space between both of these. So let's give it a margin bottom of 20 pixel. Then I need a border of 1 pixel, solid and transparent, and then I need a border radius, because it is circular, of 15 pixel. And then I need font size of 14 pixel. Finally font weight of 600, which is semi bold, font weight of 600. After all this, you can see this is our component, and what's happening, this is not being applied to this mobile navbar item. Okay, so this is nav item actually, not navbar item, this is nav item. So as you can see, it is applied now. We just need this background color here. So in order to apply this background color, also there is some issue with the classes. So padding is not applied here. What's wrong with padding? Spelling mistake. So now you can see the padding is applied. I just need the background color. So I'll copy the background color from here, and I'll paste it inside my variables file. So I'll copy the RGB value. I'll go to my variable file here, and I'll call this as bg light gray. Also for your variables, make sure that you are giving proper names so that you remember those whenever you are using it. So for background color, we are using bg light gray. Perfect. Okay, no, I copied the wrong color. So this is here. Okay, I have to copy this color actually. I'll go to variables, I'll replace this color, and this should work now. Yep, perfect. Now that it is working, let's move ahead and let's write the media queries for our logo, because for this screen size this logo is quite bigger. So I'll write media all, and so first of all I'll say max width of 1279 pixel for a tablet and little larger screen than tablet. So I'll say header logo, the height should be 53 pixel, and also let's go for a header nav item. For that I want the margin to be changed, because you see if I go to this particular screen size the margin is quite high for my nav items. So I'll say margin, give it of 0 pixel, 16 pixel, 0 pixel and 28 pixel. Similarly for my mobile, which is 767 pixel, 767 pixel, I want my header to have a padding, a different padding, padding of 50 pixel, 50 pixel, and that's it. Okay, sorry, let's give a padding bottom of 50 pixel, no, padding bottom of 50 pixel. So now if you'll see, our entire hero section is ready along with the, yes, along with the header, mobile menu, this beautiful and smooth animation here, everything is completed. So now let's start with the other component, which is this animated component here. So when you refresh this, you will see this scale in animation on these mockup UIs. So we'll create this. To create this, let's go to our code base, and inside our components let's create a folder called product showcase, because I believe this is showcasing the UI of the product. So inside the product showcase, I'll obviously create a file called index.js rafce, which is product showcase, and now this is exporting it. I'll go here and let's call it next to our hero section, which is product showcase. Now we'll also create a CSS file for this in camel case product showcase.css. Let's import this file here, import product showcase.css. So now this is imported here. Let's see how we are going to build this. So if you look at the website, there are 5 images, that's it, and they are just placed in a particular positions. So what we have to do it, we have to write the 5 images and then write the class for each of this, and then we have to add the animation, this particular animation. Great. Then so the very first thing we'll call, give it a class name called product showcase, product showcase, and then we have to write another div. Let's call it this will contain all the 5 images. Let's call this showcase wrapper, and here inside the wrapper let's create an image tag. The source is going to be the very first image that we have, copy image address. So let's copy it and let's just paste this. Now let's give it this a class name of, a common class name of showcase UI, and a unique class name. Like this class name will be common to all the 5 images, and for this particular image we'll have to give it a unique class name as well. So that will be showcase mockup 1. So this is our class name for this particular image. Now if we'll see here, this particular image is visible. Now let's replicate it 5 times, 1 2 3 4 5, and for each of this we'll change this mockup name 1 2 3 4 and finally 5, and let's change the URL for each of this. I believe that this is left 2, left 1, this is center, this is right 1, and right 2. That's it. If I go here, 1 2 3 4 and 5, yep, all the images are here. You can either write it this way or just copy, it will be same. So next to this, let's just go and style these things. So it's very easy. Let's go to the CSS file and Let's start with the very first wrapper that we have, product showcase. Now inside the product showcase, I want it to have a width of 100 view width, which means take the entire width of the screen, and I want it to have a height of 800 pixel. Next up, I want it to have a position of relative, because all these screens are relatively fixed, given a fixed position. So let's give it a position of relative. Next, I want overflow hidden, which means if anything is going out of the width of this, just hide it, or out of height of 800 pixel, just hide it. So hidden. And next up we need a background image here. So if you'll see very clearly, there is a background image attached to this. You can verify this from here. So okay, right, yep, there it is. So I'll just copy these three classes, background image, background cover, and background position, and paste it. So this will make sure that we have a background image which is of size cover, which means it is displaying as cover, object fit cover, all are same thing. Then we have the position which is right top, which is at this position. So if you look at our UI, you can also see that particular image. So if I do this, yep, here is the image at the background of it. So now we just have to style each of the individual screen, and for that let's target the wrapper first of all, showcase wrapper, and let's give it a minimum height of 70%, minimum height of 70%, so that it takes a fixed height all the time. The wrapper which wraps all the 5 images. Now showcase UI was the common class to all the images. For that I want all of them to have a position of absolute, which means an absolute position relative to this main product showcase class. And I want it to have a bottom 0, which means stick to the bottom, and left 50, which means at the center from the left. So as you can see, all the images are here. So this is our div. From here it is at left, this particular line is at center. So yep, all the images are here. Now we will target each of the image and will style it accordingly. So first of all, showcase mockup 1. Now this is more of a hit and trial method, that you have to transform and then translate minus 105%, which means the x move to the left direction by minus 105%, and y move by 15%, which means downward. So now you can see this particular image has moved downward and a little to the left. Next thing that I want with this is z index of 99, which means this should be at the bottom. Now I'll tell you the z index. For this it will be 99. This will be sorry, let's give it a z index of 98, actually not 99. This will be 98, 99, 100, 99, 98. So this will stack on top of each other. So I'll just copy this 5 times, 1, 2, 4 and 5. I'll change the names, 2, 3, 4 and finally 5, and I'll change the translate property accordingly. First of all, I'll change this 99, 100, 99 and 98. That's it. I'll change the transform property accordingly. So for first, actually 105, this is not the correct position. It should move further to the left. So this should be 160%. 160, and this should be 25%. Now if you will see, the first screen has moved to the extreme left and a little downwards. The next is on top of each other. So second one is correct. The third one, I want it to go minus 50, and for this I want 5%. So third is on top of that, and similarly I'll write negatives of these two for the other two. So for this, instead of minus 105, I'll write just 5%, because 100 plus 5, so, and this as 15%, and for this I'll write 25%, and instead of this I will write 60%. You can see this one and this one is complementary, this one and this one is complementary, and this one is center. So if I save this, this is how it looks. The animation is yet to be added, but the overall UI is like coming up. Next up, we have to change the height for our smaller screens, which we always do. So because in case of a mobile, this will look really weird. So for obviously for media, all and max width 1279 pixel. We can copy paste it from other screens, but it's better to keep it in practice to write it all the time. Product showcase, I want it to have a height of 620 pixel, and showcase UI, which means our individual, like targeting all the mockups at once, I want it to have a width of 300 pixel. Similarly for mobile screens, now if you'll see, this is a little smaller, but we want it for mobile, I want it to be further smaller. So I want it to be 170 pixel, and instead of product, this should be 450 pixel. Also, this particular background image won't look good on mobile. So as you can see, it's hidden, completely hidden. So what we will do is, we will copy the mobile background image from here. So we'll go to mobile, we'll go to this component here, and we will copy the mobile address. So where is it? Here. I'll copy this thing and I will paste it here. That's it. So now if you'll see, look at our component and this is CRED's component. Both are looking exactly same, except for one thing, which is the animation. So this is scaling animation basically, which we can get from Animista. Animista is a really great platform where you can get CSS for build some of the basic animations. So we are using scale in. Where is scale in? Entrances, slide in, slit in, this one. We are using scale in, right? So in order to use the scaling property, we just have to copy this from here, and we want it from bottom, scale in bottom. Great. And I want it to be of 1 second duration. Great. So I'll just copy it from here, copy class, and we'll paste it inside our animations next to this. And there is this thing, copy, and done. So just we have to change one thing. No, nothing changed. So we just have to copy this, and now inside our product showcase, for this particular file here, I will write it scale in bottom, and that's it. So now if I go to my application and if I refresh it, you can see this is scaling in, but there is one problem. So you see, if I am at this position on my screen and if I refresh, you'll see the animation. But if I'm at this position and if I refresh, you won't see the animation because the animation already happened below the screen. So for this particular concept, we are going to introduce something new, which is intersection observer API. New means new for in our code base, new in my videos. It is you can read more about this here. Intersection observer API, it's a great API provided by a browser, and it's good to use intersection observer API instead of IDs to keep a user scroll event, right? So let's start with this. So I'll explain you what intersection observer API is, how to use it. But first of all, we will need a state, obviously, which will be show animation. So show animation, which will tell whether or not to show the animation. So use state set show animation, and which is use state. By default, this will be false, obviously. And again, I'll remove this string from here and I'll convert it into a literal, and then I'll pass this in the variable. Like if show animation is there, then only scale in from bottom, otherwise don't. So this is the clear instruction to our code base now. So which means there will be no scale animation because it is by default false. Now what we will do is, what intersection observer API, how this work is, we call it like this. Like we declare a constant, let's call it observer is equal to, we use the new keyword and we call it intersection observer. Intersection observer. Now it takes two parameter, one a callback function and the other some options, basically like at what point you want to observe it, at what point you want to tackle it, and so on. So first of all, let's create a function const toggle animation. Now this will do just one thing. This will show animation to true. Now why I'm not using negation of show animation? Because then it will go in loop, like whenever we scroll it will show hide. So we just want to show the animation once, because CRED is also doing that only. So it's also showing the animation once. Doesn't matter how many times you scroll again, it won't show the animation. So we just want to show it true once. Now intersection observer API will take one callback function, which is toggle animation, and it will take some options. So let's write options as well. Now there are three major properties that we pass. The one is root. Root means whatever we are observing, at what point of reference we are observing. So if we pass null, which means we are observing from the frame of reference of the browser, we can pass it as another div, another element as well. So let's keep it null. Next is root margin. Root margin is from bottom, how much margin do you want to observe. So let us say if I want to observe at this particular level, so I'll just write it 500 pixel. So which means that unless and until my element, which means my this product showcase, hasn't hit 500 pixel from bottom, I won't start observing it. So I'll say 0 pixel. The moment it hits the bottom, let's start observing it. And next is threshold. That threshold, how much part is in viewport, means how much part is visible, so to call this toggle animation. So I want at least half the part to be visible to call this toggle animation, and I'll pass this here. Also I'll create a separate video for intersection observer because it's a really interesting topic. So keep an eye on my channel, subscribe it if you haven't, and press the bell icon obviously. So this is it, but it won't work on its own. To work, we'll have to like bind this intersection this observer and this product showcase somehow. So one way is to use ID. The other way, which is the React way, is to use a ref. So use ref is another hook that is popularly used. So make sure you know what ref is. If you don't, just follow me. So by const ref, I initialized a reference in this variable now, like constant now, and I'll pass this. In React you can pass a ref to anything. So I'll say ref is ref. So this is the keyword, this is my declared this one, right? So I binded my reference to this div. Now what will happen? We will use a use effect hook. Use effect is another React hook. So you must have seen that I'm using a lot of hooks in this video. All of these are very powerful. So use effect is another hook that we are going to use, which means the moment my component is loaded, whatever I'm going to write inside this use effect, that will come into action. So I'll just remove this from here and we'll declare inside the use effect. Now I don't want the animation to do multiple times, so I'll just make sure that if it is false, if show animation is false, then only do whatever I'm going to tell you to do. So what I want, if ref.current. Now this means that sometimes what happens, your ref has been declared here, but it is yet to be like initialized here. So in that case it gives error. So just always make sure you are checking ref.current if it is available or not. Then observer, which means this will observe our ref.current, which means basically this is just one line which is important, which is observer.observe ref.current, which means observe this product showcase div. And we are checking if this is like if it is binded or not, and we are also checking that show animation is false because we don't want to do it multiple times, right? So this will observe my this product showcase div. Now I'll tell you the entire thing again. So we have an observer by calling intersection observer. It has a callback function and some options. Now intersection observer.observe will observe whatever element will pass here. Our element is this particular div. Now the moment this div's threshold passes the root margin, which means half of the div is visible when it crosses the 0 pixel of the my bottom, then this callback will be called, which means this particular function will be called. And this is how intersection observer API works. You must have seen the background color changes sometimes when we scroll on some website. All these are done, these can be done through intersection observer. Also, we have to pass another function here. We have to unobserve as well when this component is unmounted. So it's very simple. I'll just copy this particular thing and I'll say instead of observe, unobserve. That's it. This is the entire code for intersection observer API. It's a very simple topic, yet very interesting. So now here I have to do one more thing. Now this intersection observer API passes a synthetic event E. Now for this event, I have to check if now it's an array basically. So for the first index element is our intersection object. I'll say is intersecting. Now is intersecting is basically a property available in the event. Now if it is past the threshold, then this will be true, otherwise it will be false. So in that I'll say this is true, and that's it. Now if we'll go to our application, if we'll refresh, you'll see the animation is not there because we have made some error here. Instead of show animation, this should be set show animation. Now it should work. As you can see, the moment we scroll into this part, this is coming, but also you must be seeing a flickering here, like it is by default there and then again it is scrolling. That's because we have to wrap this wrapper as well inside a check, which means that if show animation is true, then only show this. So this is and operator, which means when this is true, then only render whatever next to it is written. So now this will work fine. So if I go there, yep. So this is working. We have created the next component in the clone as well. Next up, we will create these similar looking components. This feel special more often, we take your money matter seriously, and security first and second. All three are very similar things. So we will create these three first, and then we'll create the most interesting component, which is this particular screen. Alright, so the very first is feel special. Great then. So let's minimize these things, and inside our component, let's create another folder called feel special. We'll create an index file, index.js RAFCE, which is feel special, and we're exporting this. Let's create a CSS file for this as well, which will be feel special.css. Let's import this here. Import /feel special.css. Now let's import this in our home page as well. Next to this, let's call feel special, and done. So now inside our feel special, we have to understand the structure first of all before building it. So as you can see that it has a background attached to the main wrapper. As you can see, here is a background image already attached to it, and inside that image we have a heading, subheading, some description, and obviously our button. Similarly for this screen as well, we have a background image, heading, subheading, description, button, and finally for this screen as well. So this is going to be our basic component design. So let's go to feel special, and here let's start creating it. So I'll be declaring some classes which will be common. I'll declare those in common classes because those will be used by other two components as well. So I'll give it this a class name of feel special, and other I'll call it as a photo section, because all three sections are photo sections. So I'll save this, and inside this I have another component which is having a class name of max width. Why I'm not giving max width to this particular div? Because the photo will also be taking max width, then there will be white space around it. So therefore I'm not giving it this component as a max width class. So now the internal wrapper is called max div, and inside this div I have a child like div. Let's give it a class name of photo section child. photo section child. Now inside this, now so far I have created the main wrapper. This entire box is inside the child wrapper. Now inside child we have two things, the top part and the bottom part. So let's create another two divs. The first div is let's call it, give it a class name of photo section top, photo section top, and next one is photo section bottom div, and give it a class name of photo section bottom, right? And inside the photo section top, what we have is a heading. Let's give it a div, and which is obviously our photo class name is photo section heading. And inside the heading, let's copy the heading, which is this. I'll paste it here, and next to heading I have a subheading. So this subheading is photo section subheading. So the subheading is this particular line, and inside my bottom, inside this div's bottom, we have a description, which is let's give it a class name of photo section description. Let's copy this description from here and let's paste it. And next to the description we have a button, but the button is also taking some particular space, so let's wrap it inside a div. And I'll call it as button. The button text is going to be, the button text is explore rewards for this one. Alright, that's it. Now if you'll see in our app, explore reward button is here, all the text is here, we just have to style it now. So but before styling it, before styling the common components, which is photo section, let's style this field special part, which is just specific to this section. So I'll just write field special, and for this I just need two things. If you'll go to CRED, you will see, if and hover over this, you'll see there is a background color of red. So I'll just copy this. So this is a fallback color basically. Suppose if the image is not loading, so there should be a red color background instead of a black color. So this is known as fallback backgrounds. So inside a variable I'll say bg red, and I'll paste this, and here on field special I'll say background color variable bg red. Now because if you'll see here, is it not imported yet? Okay, everything is there, but then why is it not, did you mean class name? Let me see why my class is not being applied. Okay, field special, let's check the spelling again. Okay, special, somewhere the spelling is changed. Sepkiel, okay, here it should be special. Okay, now if you'll see, the red background is here. Now the next thing that I want to copy from CRED's website is this particular image URL that they are using, and let's paste it here. But if you notice, this is a desktop URL, not the mobile one, because they are using a different background in mobile. So for obviously for media all and max width, for tablet first 1279 pixel, I want the field special. So the background position for this particular screen size, I want it to be center bottom, which is different from others. So I'll say background position is center and bottom. And finally the media query for my mobile is, which is 767 pixel. I want field special. Okay, so the URL changes for this. So the URL is this one. Okay, URL is this one. So I'll paste it, and why is it coming like this? Oops. Okay, so URL is this, And next thing that I want is minimum height for this is changing. So the minimum height for this is 1150 pixel, and the background position is right center instead of bottom center. It should be right center, right center. So that's it. Our this component is ready. So as you can see, we just have to style these things. So since these are common to all other two components which I showed as well, so let's style those in the common classes. So inside the common classes, the very first thing that we'll target is obviously the photo section main. So let's say dot photo section. I wanted to have a height of 100 view height, 100 no yeah 100%, and a minimum height of, let us say, 100 view height. I always wanted to take the entire height of the screen and minimum width of 100 view width, which means entire width of my screen. I want the background size to be of cover, which means any image that I'm pasting should be of size cover. So yeah, this is it. And next up that I want is, after my photo section, I want the child, photo section child. For this I want a padding of, the top padding I want it to be of 240 pixel, 0 pixel, and the bottom padding I want it to have 180 pixel. So this is my child, like this particular component is the child. For this I wanted this particular amount of padding. Actually, let's remove this, it looks weird. Yeah, now it looks good. So for 100 view height, this is the padding amount of padding I want. Next to the child, for the heading, which is photo section heading, I want a font size of 100 pixel. Again, I checked this font size from CRED's website only. I want a line height of 96 pixel because there was too much of gap between the lines, and I want a font weight of 700, which means bold, and I want it to be a max width of 700 pixel, because if you'll see on CRED's website, it could have, like on normal screen, it could have more often must have been written here, but it is breaking from this point. Therefore I am giving it a maximum width here. Next to heading, I have subheading and the description. So for the photo section subheading, for this I want font size of 18 pixel, and I want font weight of 600, which means semi bold. Slight difference between the heading and the subheading. I want a line height of, let's say, 28 pixel, and similarly a max width of 630 pixel, because I want it to break the sentence basically. Next, I want it to have some margin bottom. If you'll see, this has a lot of margin beneath this, so I want it to have a this is my description, right? Okay, so I'm styling the subheading right now. So this I was writing for description actually. So for my description, I want it to have a margin top, a lot of margin top. So I'll say margin top of 200 pixel, and I'll say margin bottom of how much, 40 pixel will do. So now if you'll see in our application, there is a gap here and here. Now we just have to do the subheading part. So let's do photo section subheading. For subheading, font size we need to be of 32 pixel. This I checked from CRED's website only. Next, line height of 38 pixel, font weight of 700 pixel, which is again bold, and next to it I want it to have a max width of 630 pixel, which is similar as the description, and finally I want it to be some margin top between the heading is 16 pixel. Now if you will save this and see here, our component is ready except for the font weight is not applied. Okay, so this is not size, this is weight. Done. So yeah, this particular component is done for desktop right now. In tablet, which is this screen, it is looking good, but the font size could be smaller and there is a lot of padding. Similarly for mobile, we have to reduce the font size and reduce the padding as well. So for our mobile media queries, what we will do is, for this, for heading, For heading, we will say max width of 670 pixel so that there is breaking. For tablet, we don't have to reduce the size. For photo child, which is the wrapper of all our components, I want to reduce the padding. So I'll say 100 pixel vertically and 0 pixel horizontally. Now if you'll see here, the padding is reduced. And finally, for our mobiles, this one is mobile, right? I'll just remove space. Now for our mobile media query, I'll go with photo section heading, which is this one. For photo section heading, I'll say font size of 65 pixel and line height of 58 pixel will do. So if you'll go now at the mobile height, you can see that the title looks more elegant and beautiful here. Next to my heading, I have photo section subheading. For subheading, I want the font size to be of 18 pixel and line height of 24 pixel. Similarly, I want it to have a little bit of extra space here. So I'll say margin top of, sorry, not max style, margin top of, let's say 26 pixel. Now if you'll see, this looks beautiful. And we just have to reduce the size of description here. So for description, I'll say font weight to be of regular instead of bold. So it will be 400. And I'll say font size of 14 pixel instead of 18 pixel, which we declared here. So font size of 14 pixel, line height of 20 pixel, and now if you'll see that there is a lot of gap here and the chair is not visible, so we have to push it below the chair. So I'll say margin top of 500 pixel will do. So that's it. Now if I'll see, this is done. There is just one thing that I need to reduce the padding here as well, change the padding of the child. So I'll say for child, let's reduce the padding from increase the padding from 195 pixel, 0 pixel and 90 pixel. Yep, now it looks good. So if you'll see, this looks very elegant and very smooth. So this section is completed. Now let's reuse these classes to create our other two components, which is this money matter seriously experience button, like experience component, and this security component. Let's create the experience and security component. Let's call it as CRED experience. Okay, I'll have to rename it experience, and let's create an index.js. Let's close this one. RAFCE, which is CRED experience. All right, I'll create a CSS file for this as well. CRED experience.css, and I'll import this CSS file here. Import CRED experience.css. I hope the spellings are correct, otherwise this will give a lot of error. Now it's quite simple. I'll just go here, I'll copy this entire div from here and I'll paste it inside. Instead of this div, I'll find field special and I'll change this with CRED experience. So okay, field special. Okay, what's the error? Field special. Okay, so I'll just change it with this, and now that this is changed, I'll copy the CSS from here, Command A, Command C, Command V, Command F. So again I'll change the field special with CRED experience. I'll save this. Now I just have to replace the URL of the background images. So this is our experience component. I'll just copy this component from here, copy link address. I'll replace this URL. Done. Now okay, so I have to call the experience CRED experience in my home page. So CRED experience will come after this field special, CRED experience. Now if I go to my local component, button is not defined. Obviously here I have to import the button. So now if I'll see, okay, so my experience component is automatically displayed. I just have to change the text description and the button text. That's it. And also one more thing needs to be changed for mobile as well. The URL of the image should change. So from here I will copy this line and I'll paste it inside my CRED experience, this. Okay, that's it. So now even our mobile experience button looks good. We have to change one more thing here. We'll have to provide more gap to this particular component just for this experience component, because the person behind this is hiding. So what we will do is, for this CRED experience heading, I will go to this and I'll give it one more class, CRED experience heading. I'll copy this, I'll go here, and inside this also I have to give the description as well. Where is the description? CRED experience description, because if I'll increase the padding between this and the top, I'll have to reduce the padding between these two. So therefore I'll have to give a class name to this description as well. Now for mobile only I have to do this, not for desktop. So for this, for heading, I'll say margin top of 400 pixel will do. As you can see, the person is visible now, but we have to reduce this. So what we'll do is CRED experience description. For description, I'll say margin top of 100 pixel instead of 500. So now as you can see, this component looks perfect. We just have to change the text here. So in order to change the text, I'll copy it from here and quickly paste it inside this. Done and done, and finally this done. So not done. Pasted. Now if you'll see, our component is ready. So next is the security component, which is this one. So very quickly we'll create this as well. So I'll go to components, I'll create a folder called CRED security. I'll create a file called index.js, RAFCE, CRED security, and I'll create a CSS file for this as well, which will be CRED security.css. I'll import this CSS file here. Import this CRED security.css. Now that this is done, I'll quickly import it inside my home page, CRED security, and that's it. Now you must see that CRED security page is here. Okay, I have to write something at least inside the security page. So I'll just copy again from here. So I'll copy it from here. I'll go there, remove this div, paste that, import the button component, and go to find field special and change it to CRED security. Just change it and save it. Now go to CSS, copy this, paste it inside CRED security and change this. Now save. Now if you'll see, where is your security? Yep, this is your security component. You just have to change the background image color and everything. Also for this thing also we forgot to do one thing. Like if you will go to experience button, you will see this is the background color. So let's copy this background color. Let's go to variables and let's say bg blue, paste this, and let's go to CRED experience CSS. Instead of red, this should be blue. The fallback color should match the photo. Now for CRED security, I will have to copy this CRED security. This is the background color, bg purple we'll call this, and we'll go to variables and we'll declare a new variable called bg purple, and we'll paste this. Okay, I missed the R here, RGB. Okay, and in CRED security, instead of red, this should be purple. Let's close this thing, and now let's copy the URLs. So this is the URL for your image. Here this should replace it and save. Now if you go here, okay, sorry. So yeah, the image is coming. Just for mobile we have to change it, right? So let's go to mobile and let's copy the image from here, and this is the image, background image. Let's copy it and let's paste it here. Done. And so our, okay, there is some error, security. Okay, we haven't copied the URL correctly. Okay, now it is okay, sorry, I have to copy the URL from here, right? So great, I have copied it. Let's paste it here. Done. So now if we'll go here, you can see the component is visible and it's looking great. So far so good, all the components are done. So now we'll create these two components. The brands you love component, this is just a small banner that we have to create, and this window peak. So these two are quite smaller components. We'll just create it very quickly, and then we'll finally come to this mobile screen component, scroll component. Before we go to that brands section, we have to change the text for this security. If you must have seen that I forgot to change this, so I'll quickly go here, create security. I'll change this to this, security first and second, then change this, and then finally change the description, and change the description, change the button, which is become a member, also let's change the button text for experience as well. For experience, it is experience the upgrade. Okay, experience the upgrade. Done. So yeah, we are done with these components. Let's now create the brand section. This is a very simple component, I'll say. Let's create a brands love component inside our components folder. Brands love. Obviously we'll create an index file, index.js. We'll call it RAFCE. We'll name it brands love. We'll create a CSS file for this, brands love.css. It doesn't matter how much small a component is, always try to segregate it, keep it in a folder so that your code looks structured. Now import brands love.css, and what we will do now is this is a very simple component, so we'll give this a class name of brands love, and inside this we will give this div a class name of max width. That's it. So why not max width to this brands love? Because this is an image, and if we give max width to this will like leave some white spaces, which is black color actually. So that's why we give max width to the internal div. And next up we need a div which copies the text from here, rewards from brands you love, and let's give it a class name of, let's say, brands love heading. So for heading, so now you must have seen the use of common classes. Like we just wrote this max width once and we are using it so many times. And next to this, let's say another div. Now this will contain the background image. Let's call it brands love banner. That's it. Now let's go to this file, CSS file, and start writing the CSS for this. So first of all, brands love, the outer component, I'll say the background color for this is white, and yep, where is our brands love? I haven't imported it yet, So this comes after field special. Okay, so let's write it inside this after field special, brands love. Okay, let's close the other folders first of all. Create experience, security, special, hero section. Cool. So inside my brands love CSS, give it a background color of white, or and if you are giving it a background color of white, obviously we'll have to change the color of text, which is BG black. Next up, I want it to have a padding of 60 pixels vertically and 0 pixel horizontally, because max width will take care of the horizontal padding. Now brands love heading. For heading, I want the font size to be of 24 pixel and font weight of 600, which means semi bold. Here is our brands love. As you can see, this looks really neat. Now we just have to add the banner here. So for the banner, I'll have to copy the URL from CRED obviously, but let's write the other properties first of all, which is background repeat, which is no repeat. I don't want to repeat my background URL even if it is a very small background. Next one is I want background position is center, which means both on x-axis and on y-axis I want it to be centered. Now I want it to have a size of 100%, and similarly I want the height of the banner to be of 50 pixel, width to be of 100%, and finally a margin top of 50 pixel. So this will do. I just have to, yeah, as you can see there is some space. I just have to copy the URL. So this is the URL, so I'll just copy it from here. Okay, so since this is a background image URL, I can't copy it from this place. I'll have to copy it from here. So I copied it from here. I'll just paste it, and that's it. Now if you'll see, this is not the brand banner for mobile. I'll have to copy the URL for mobile separately. So for that I'll have to write the media query as well, at media all and max width. Since it is just changing on mobile, I don't have to write the media query for tablet and other smaller laptops. So first of all, I'll also change the heading font size. So I'll reduce it to 18 pixel. I check this from CRED again. So if you want to verify it, you can verify it from there. And for banner, I want to change certain things. The background size, I don't want it to have 100%. I want it to contain height. Instead of 50 pixel, I want it to have height of 240 pixel. Similarly, margin top, instead of 50 pixel, which is a lot for mobile screen, I'll give it 35 pixel. And background position, actually instead of center, I want it to be left center. That's it. Now I just have to change the URL for this one. So this is the URL, and I'll copy it and I'll just paste it. Now if you'll see, rewards from brands you love is looking exactly similar. Just one more thing, this is having a bold, so this is bold and we are making it semi bold. So now it will look good. Yep, now it looks good. So this is it. Our brands love component is completed. Let's create the window peak component. So window peak component is also a very smaller component which will be created in very quickly. So let's go to our code base and create a folder called window peak. You can name the component anything that you want, as long as it is understandable, it's fine. So let's call it index.js RAFCE. Let's call it window peak. So also we'll create a CSS file which will be window peak.css. We'll import the CSS file here. Import window peak.css. Let's see where it is. It is above the security, CRED security. So inside the home, let's call it window peak. Now this, let's call it window peak, and done. So here, now let's go to window peak index. Now inside the window peak, we just need one div, and let's give it a class name of window peak. That's it. Now let's give some space here. Let's go to the CSS file and style it. It's a very smaller and very simple component. Also one more thing, I think this is this visible on mobile as well? Yeah, so as you can see, this window peak is not available on mobile, so we'll have to remove it from the mobile. So we'll have to give it a class name of non-mobile. So let's give it a class name of non, okay, not here. Let's go here and let's create a div, and let's give it an option like this, and let's give this a class name of non-mobile, which means that it is only visible on screen sizes larger than a mobile. Otherwise don't render this window peak. Like this will be displayed none, it will be hidden from the view, right? So now here for my window peak CSS, what I'll say is window peak. For window peak, I'll take the background image from the CRED. Obviously I'll write the other stuff. Minimum height I want it to be of 500 pixel. The peak size that you see, this peak, okay, the peak spelling should be P-E-E-K. I'm writing P-E-A-K. okay, this is right spelling, I guess. Anyway, just ignore the spelling, it doesn't matter here. So this is the 500 pixel peak window that we are getting. So minimum height should be of 500 pixel. Next up, I want background attachment to be fixed. I don't want it to move along with my scroll. Next, I want position both left and right to be center and center. Next up, I want repeat. No, I mean, I don't want it to repeat even if the size is very small. And I want the size to be of cover. Now I'll just copy the URL from here. This is the URL that we get, and I'll paste it, and that's it. Our window peak component is also done. Where is window peak? It's next to safe security. Okay, we are on mobile actually. Yep, as you can see, window peak component is also done. So far so good. We have completed all of the components except for this CRED story, this rating component, and this mobile scroll. So let's create this mobile scroll component, and then we'll finish up the others later. Let's start building this mobile scroll component. Let's go to our components and let's create a folder called mobile scroll. Now inside this mobile scroll, let's create an index.js file, RASCE mobile scroll. Let's create a CSS file as well, which is mobile scroll.css. I'll import it here. Import mobile scroll.css. Now let's give some space. Now mobile scroll comes after the experience, so it will be next to this mobile scroll. Now let's go to index.js, and first of all, let's understand what's happening here. There are 1, 2, 3 and 4 different screens which are being rendered on scroll. So first of all, we'll have to create some data here to map through it. So let's, on top of it, let's create a data const, let's call it scroll data, right? So it's an array of objects. The objects contain a heading, and the objects contain a description, and the objects contain a mobile image, right? Mobile underscore img, which is image. So for all three, let's go to mobile, and now in mobile it's just plain rendering on top of each other. So for all four, let's copy these things. So let's start with the very first, which is this one. The heading is we have got your back, and we'll have to make sure it is not breaking, and the description, copy it from here, and then finally copy the image address. So this is the image address, save it. Now copy it 3 more times, 3, and now change it for others. For this one, just copy it, change it, make sure it is not breaking again, change the description. So generally you get this data from your API, but since we are cloning CRED, we don't have access to their API obviously. So therefore we are creating this mock data here. So I think it's just simple. Instead of fold 1, 2, 3 and fold 4, the images are done. We just have to copy the text now. For your electric taste, yes, obviously paste it here and remove the space, copy the description, paste the description here, and it's also done. The last one is this: more cash in your pockets. Replace the heading and just replace the description for the final one, and we are done. Okay, great. Now that we have some data to work upon, what we will do is we will understand what's happening on the screen. So this text is changing, but this particular mockup background is fixed. Just this particular text and the screen image is changing. So let's start building this. Let's minimize this data. Let's give some space. From here, first of all, we'll give it a max width class so that there is appropriate padding horizontally. I want it to be displayed as flex, and let's give it a class name of mobile scroll to style it later. Now inside this, let's say this particular thing, this is one side of the component and this is second side of the component. So let's create two div, 1 and 2. Now in this div, let's call it as scroll full screen wrapper, like scroll full screen wrapper, because only that part is scrolling, the other part is fixed. And now inside this scroll full screen wrapper, I will map through the data. I will scroll data dot map. Now map is an array function basically, which maps like individually, goes to each of the element inside the array and then does whatever, returns a function whatever you pass it. So I want the screen, whatever screen, and okay, I want one more of this screen and the index. I want both of this to be passed. So yep, so let's create a div here. Inside this div, I'll just render each of the screen data here. So let's call it class name of scroll full screen. So for each of the data here, I am creating a full screen div. This will have a height of 100 view height. Now let's create a separate component for this particular thing. We have got your back and the text. I'll explain why we are creating a entirely different component for that, because we are going to use intersection observer API there. So let's call it screen text.js, right? RAFCE. That's it. Let's save it. For each of this, I want screen text to be there, and let's pass the screen data. Whatever screen data we are getting from the array here, let's pass it here. So screen is screen. Also, yeah, this is it. Now now we'll need this I as well. So we need the current index. So whatever index the data is, we need that also. And next to this div, in the right hand side of the like this component, there is a fixed mobile mockup, and in that images are changing. So what we need to do is, let's give it a class name as mobile mockup wrapper. So mobile mockup wrapper, and also this particular mobile is not visible in like smaller screen size. So obviously we'll use our common class here, which is non-mobile, which means it won't be visible on screens lesser than 767 pixel. Now inside this, I have a div. Let's call this as mobile mockup, and inside this mockup we have the actual screen. This I'm talking about, not on mobile, I'm talking about this particular screen that we have. So let's give it a class name of mobile mockup screen. mobile mockup screen. Also, as you can see, the image is exactly centered, so I'll use two more classes, which is flex and absolute center. These are our common classes that we declared earlier in the video. Now inside this we have an image and we have a source, and let's give it a class name of mobile screen image, mobile screen img image. Okay, done. Now we have to pass the source here. Now we don't know which particular screen is being rendered at a time. It could be the first one, it could be the second one, it could be the third one, it could be the fourth one. So we need to have some state which will tell that which image is being rendered currently. So I'll say const current image, set current image, and let's use state hook. Now I'm sure that so far I have explained use state 2-3 times, so you are aware what use state does. So the current index is 0. We are using 0 based index. So now our source is scroll data, and the current image index, which means 0th, which means the first element of this array. For that I am using mobile image. So great. Then if you will go here, as you can see, this is the first image that is being rendered. Is this right? Even right? Let me just see. Yes, this is the right image. So now what we need, that when we scroll, we want to change the index as well. So we will pass this setter function to our screen text. Set current image to set current image. That's it. Now I'm sorry. So now let's go to screen text, and now in our screen text, let's take all the props that we were getting. We were getting screen data, we were getting set current image, and we were getting the index. But before that, let's do one thing. Let's just style these particular things so that we are sure we get to know what's happening on our screen at the moment, right? So let's go to our scroll file, this CSS file, and let's style our component. So the very first component that I would like to style is mobile scroll, which is our right part of the screen, which will have a position of relative, and it will have a padding top of 70 pixel and a padding bottom of 70 pixel. Okay, now next to this, scroll full screen wrapper, which means the left hand side's wrapper. If you'll see this particular wrapper, scroll full screen wrapper, let's style this scroll full screen. Here the class names might be a little confusing. Make sure that you are checking which class I am referring to before writing it. Just pause the video, go back to your code and look what we are writing. 50%. I am giving it a width of 50% so that both of these are equally partitions. Now that you can see 50% is taken by that part and other 50 is taken by this part. And next up we have scroll full screen, the child element inside this wrapper. For this I want a minimum height of 100 view height. You must have seen that I have wrapped the screen text in this scroll full screen. So for this scroll full screen, I want a minimum height of 100 view height. I want to display as flex. Obviously we could have used the common class. Anyway, justify content center and flex direction to be column, because you can see the data, this heading and sub description is tagged on each other. So I want it to be as column. That's it. Now since this wrapper has 50% width, I also want the mobile scroll wrapper to mobile mockup wrapper to have this width of 50%. So far so good. Now as you can see, both of these are equally like partitions on each half of the screen. Now next to this, let's style the actual mockup, this particular thing, this mockup that we have here. So mobile mockup. So for this mobile mockup, I want it to have a position of sticky. Now sticky is a great position to use when you want to stick something, just like something is sticking with some gum on wall. So it will be sticky. Top, which means gap from the top will be 150 pixel, and similarly transform, which means like I want it to like a little bit deviated from the center. So I'll say transform translate x, let's say 30% deviated from the center. And next up, I want it to have a fixed width of 350 pixel, a height of 600 pixel. So height and width I am taking from CRED's website. I want it to have a border radius of 46 pixel. As you can see, this mobile image has some border radius here. So this is 46 pixel. And next to border radius, I want a padding of let's say 16 pixel and 14 pixel, 16 pixel vertically and 14 pixel horizontally. And I want it to have maximum height, which means the possible height, maximum possible height should not exceed the my screen height. Now as you can see, this is breaking here, not breaking actually, my image is here. I'll style the image, but I need to give a box shadow of this color box shadow. I'll copy it from here only. So this box shadow right here, I'll copy this, and let's say a mobile box shadow, I'll declare a variable here, mobile box shadow. So that's it, I have declared it. Now let's go to mobile scroll, and here let's call box shadow variable mobile box shadow. That's it. Now if you'll see, you can see the mobile UI here. I am sure you can see that. Just the image is overlapping that. We'll fix it in a moment. So mobile mockup is ready. Now the screen part, which is inside the mobile mockup, which is mobile mockup screen. Now for this, again, if you'll see, the moment we are changing it, there is a gap and a blank gray screen is shown. So let's copy the hex code for that gray screen, that particular gray screen, which is this RGB. So let's go to variables and let's paste it here, mobile bg, and that's it. Now let's go to mobile scroll. Now in my mobile mockup screen, what I'll do is background color, not size, background color of var mobile bg, and save it. Now you will see we have this gray color here as well, and next to it I'll say overflow hidden, that if the image is too big for my mobile, just hide it. Now as you can see, image is hidden, whatever is overflowing. Next, one more property, I want it to have a height of 100%, not 100%, and a border radius of inherit, which means whatever is the parent's border radius, just inherit it. Now you can see the mobile's view is quite nice. It's looking very nice. Now I just have to style my image. So this is mobile screen img, which is image. Now for my mobile screen image, I'm talking about this particular image that we have here, mobile screen image. So for this image, let's style this. I want it to have a height of 100%, whatever is the height of the parent, and I want it to contain object fit contain. So this will automatically scale it. Now as you can see, the images are perfectly visible inside this UI. Next to this, let's just next to this, I have to make it responsive as well. So media all and max width. First of all, we'll style it for obviously 1279 pixel. So for 1279 pixel, our mobile scroll, for this I want padding bottom to be 30 pixel, padding bottom 30 pixel, because 70 pixel is too much for mobile. And next up we have mobile mockup. For mobile mockup, I want the width from 350 pixel, because this is too big for mobile, like a tablet. If you'll see, this width is too much for a tablet. So we'll okay, this is, yeah, This is too much for a tablet, so we'll reduce it a bit. So I want it to have a mobile mockup. So let's give it a width of 272 and 480. Width of 272 pixel and height of 480 pixel. 480 pixel. That's it. This will do. Also, I want, like, now in this tablet screen 30 pixel of gap from the center is too much, so let's reduce it a bit. So I will reduce it to 10%. So transform translate x 10%. Now yes, now it is a little more centered. So that's it. That was all about our responsiveness for the mockup. Now let's just go and create the screen text component. So for the screen text component, let us see what we are getting. We are getting a screen, which is an object which contains a heading, a description, and an image. Set current image is setter function for increasing the index of the current image and the current index of the image. So for this, the very first outer div, let's call this as class name. Let's give it a class name of screen text. Screen text is based on the parent component's name, so screen text. And then inside this we have a heading, obviously, so let's call a heading and call it let's call it screen heading. So screen heading is obviously whatever screen we are getting inside here, dot heading. So next to our heading, we have something. So I'll just show you what I'm talking about. Like, suppose if I'm on a mobile, I see this mobile view, otherwise I won't. There is no mobile in between the heading and the description. So for next div, I'll give a common class which is only mobile, which means this is visible only in a mobile. And next to only mobile, let's call it mobile mockup wrapper, because we already created the UI for this in this class name. And actually let's just copy this wrapper part from here only, from here, and let's just paste it here. This entire, instead of non-mobile, let's call it only mobile. And instead of image to be this, let's call it screen dot mobile img. Whatever screen data we are passing, set the image to be this one. Now if I reduce the screen size to this, you can see there is one mobile screen for each of the data. Now apart from this, okay, let me see if my responsiveness is correct. So 27248 pixel, yep, this will work full as fine. Great, then yeah, so I was here in the screen text. So after this I have a description as well. So here I will see a div and I'll say screen dot description. Great. So now here I'll give this a class name as screen description. Great. So what I'll do, I'll just style the description, screen text, and heading now, and then I'll add the animation to change the data on change the image on scroll. Great. So what I'll do is I'll go here and I'll style the heading and the description. So okay, where is my heading? Here, dot mobile, okay, screen heading. So screen heading is font size is 105 pixel, whereas the font weight is 700. Font weight is bold, and similarly the line height is 105 pixel. And also the main wrapper, which is screen text, I have to style it as well. Screen text, by default the opacity of the screen text will be 0, which means it should not be visible. and a padding bottom of 80 pixel. So I don't want it to be visible unless and until it is inside the screen. So let's create a class called text visible. We'll implement this class later on in our JSX file. So text visible, which means opacity is 1. Let's create some animation here. So we'll say transition 0.75 seconds, which means 750 milliseconds it will take to transform from 0 opacity to 1 opacity if this particular class is applied. So now let's style the screen description dot screen description. So for screen description, I want the font size to be of 20 pixel. I want the font weight to be semi bold, which means 600, and I want the margin top. There is some gap, if you'll notice, between these two. So margin top of 52 pixel will be nice. So I'll just write the responsiveness for this. So the screen heading, for screen heading, I'll say for tablets the font size should be 70 pixel, and the line height should also be 70. Line height should also be 70 pixel. So that's it. And the description for this, the font size should be 18 pixel, and the margin top that we just gave to 52 pixel, let's make it 44 pixel. And for mobile, I'll just copy this thing. For mobile, I don't want to change these two, just the heading. For this, I want it to be 50 pixel, 50, and for description, I want it to be I guess 18 is nice. So I just have to change something, that since this wrapper is taking 50% of the width so far, this particular wrapper, I wanted to take 100% width, because the like the sticky mobile is not visible there. So I'll remove this and I'll paste this and I'll make it 100%. So I guess it's good now, just that we have to add the text visible in that to be visible, this particular class. Now how we will add this, we will again use intersection observer API in order to see if that particular text is in like viewport or not. So it's very simple. We'll just do what we did earlier as well in this component, actually product showcase. I'll copy this part here, show animation, const ref, toggle animation, ref. I'll copy this particular part and I'll explain you what is happening. So I'll copy this part, I'll go to mobile scroll, I'll paste it here. We have to import use state, we have to import use ref, we have to import use effect as well. And now we have to change the threshold from 0.5 to 0.6, and I guess we are done. So also, yes, we have to do one more thing. I'll explain what is happening. We have a variable called show animation, which is by default false. Now whenever our particular text, here in this example I'll show you, see when this text is visible, when I scroll, you see nothing is visible at this moment. When I scroll a little further, now automatically this text comes visible. So which means when 60% of this text is in my viewport, then only change the opacity from 0 to 1 and change this particular screen. So this is what happening, this is what we will also do, right? So this is what is happening. We are creating a ref, we are passing this ref to this screen here. So ref as ref, so we are passing this ref here, and instead of screen text, I'll have to create a literal here like this, and I'll have to say show, we can change the name of this or we can leave it as it is. So I'll just say show animation, which means if the text is visible, then I'll say text visible class will be applied, which will change the opacity to 1. So now this will do. So what will happen now, if you will see, if you will go here and refresh it, you see the moment I pass 60%, let's go to a good view height. Yeah, the moment we pass 60%, see my text is visible now. So we just have to change this uh, screen, the screen in the mockup. To change that, what we will do, here as you will see, there is, whenever we are toggling the animation, we also have a setter function. So what we will do is we will set the current image to be I. That's it. So whenever we are changing it, okay, now you must have noticed that the image is not changing. So there is a very interesting concept behind this. The concept is of React keys. React thinks that this is still the same component, therefore it is not changing it. It is not re-rendering it. Here the entire virtual DOM concept came. So we'll have to pass a key to tell React that this is unique every time. So now this will change every time. So I just have to refresh it. Yup. Now as you can see, it is changing. So therefore passing a key is very important in React. So make sure you are passing the key wherever possible. Also now what we need to do here is we have to add one more class. As you can see, this is sliding in from the right. The screen is sliding it in. So we'll copy one more animation from here, which is slide in, this one. And let's make it of 1 second, right? So if I make it of 1 second, I think the animation looks quite right. So slide in 1 second, great. So I'll just copy the CSS from here, not this one, slide in from right, yep, this one, and let's change it to 1 second. Great. I'll copy the CSS, I'll paste it inside my animations file. Great. And I'll also copy the keyframes. Now I have to change a little bit. This 1000 pixel is a lot, it's an ambiguous arbitrary value. I'll change it to 100% so that it slide in from 100% X. I'll change this as well, 100%. So yep, now I just have to add this particular class to our mobile scroll image here, and this is it, and we are done. Now if you'll see here, the okay, yep, now the images are changing as we want it to. There is just one tiny problem, that when we are scrolling back it is not changing, and I guess I know the issue. Here we have this check which we copied from that particular section, so therefore it is there. Now if we change it, it will automatically change the screen. So we are done with this particular screen. Now let's move ahead and create the CRED story section, which is this part. The story of CRED begins with trust. This particular section, it's also quite a small component which we'll create pretty quick. So let's start with this. So in order to create this, we'll have to create a component again. Let's call it as CRED story. CRED story. Let's create index.js RAFCE, which is CRED story. Okay, and let's create a CSS file here as well, which is CRED story.css. Let's import this file here. Import this CRED story, not story. Okay, have I written this correct spelling? Yes, not CSS. Okay, I have written here, it should be story. Function to CRED story. Now it's nice. So CRED story is here. Now let's import this inside our home page. So CRED story comes after CRED security. CRED story is here, and let's save it. Let's go to CRED story and look what we have to build. We again have a photo background here, which we will copy from CRED, the URL. And apart from this, there is nothing much complicated. There are two divs which are placed in a flex direction as long as it is in a tablet, and in a column direction as long as it is in a mobile. So, and then we have three subsection in the details. We have to design the heading and the description separately. So that's it. Let's start building this story section. So the very first, I'll say that this is CRED story. let's give it a class name. Actually, class name is CRED story, and let's make it flex and absolute center. Now this will help us in centering everything that I have. Next up, let's create another div, and let's call this div as let's give this a max width so that there is appropriate padding inside the image. And let's again give it a flex, and let's call it story wrapper. And inside the wrapper we have another heading wrapper. So heading wrapper is this particular wrapper. So let's call it class name story CRED story heading wrapper. So this also needs to be a flex. Let's call it CRED story heading wrapper. So this will wrap my heading. So obviously we need a heading inside this. So let's call it class name as CRED story heading. Great. So let's copy the heading. Remove this. I'll copy the heading here. So what's happening is I have a max width which will make sure that the padding is there horizontally. Then we have a heading wrapper so that I can push it at the bottom of the this particular left hand side. So therefore I am wrapping my heading inside another wrapper. So after my wrapper I have another div here which will contain my story. So I'll say this is CRED story detail. Right, inside my detail I have 3 paras. So I'll call it as class name CRED story para. CRED story para. I'll copy this 3 times. That's it. And I'll paste the details here. The first paragraph is this one, which will come here. The second paragraph is this one, which will come here. And the third paragraph is this one, which will come here. Great. Now that we have the HTML ready for this, if you will see, the HTML is ready. We just have to style the individual components. So if I go to the CSS file for this and target the very first thing, that is CRED story, the parent, and not story. For the story, I want it to have a minimum height of the entire screen height, and obviously now I want it to have a background of green, as you can see here. So let's copy the RGB code from here. Let's paste it inside the variable. Let's call it bg green. And now where were we? Here. So let's say background color is where bg green. Great. So after bg green we have background size as cover, because I want the image that I'm going to place now should be displayed as cover. Background position, I want it to be as right bottom, so I'll say right and bottom. Position, I want it to have a position of relative. That's it. Now let's just copy the URL for this one and paste it here. So far so good. Next up we have our story wrapper. So I just want the story wrapper align items flex end. I just want it to be displayed at the end of the flex like this. You see, if I don't give this flex end, my story, this heading will be at the top. So to make it vertically at the end, I have to give it this thing, and I have to wrap it inside a wrapper. Next to this I have a heading wrapper, CRED story heading wrapper. I'll say I want it to be of width 50%. I want not 505, I want it to have width 50%. I want this to have a equal width. CRED story heading wrapper. What happened? CRED story heading wrapper. The spelling is right. Great. I'll write the other properties first. I want the flex direction to be of column, and I want the justify content to be flex end. Justify content to be flex end. Yep, it's good. Next up, we have the actual heading. So this is CRED story heading. So for heading, I want the font size to be of 60 pixel. I want the line height, the space between the two lines to be of 60 pixel, and I want font weight to be bold, which means 700, and I want maximum width to be of 80% so that there is appropriate break. Yep, this is what we want. We'll give 50% to this story as well, so it will expand a little. So let's move ahead. Next to our heading, I have detail, so which is CRED story detail. I want it to have a width of 50%. Now if you'll see, yep, this now it looks good. So it has a width of 50%. I want the font weight to be medium, so it will be 500, and I want a margin left of 30 pixel. Yep, it looks good. Now I just have to style the paras, give some space between them. So I'll say CRED story para dot CRED story para. For this, I want the font size to be of 18 pixel, and I want the line height to be of 28 pixel. After this, I want the margin top. There should be gap between two paras. So for this, I want this to be of 20 pixel, and maximum width that they can take is of 550 pixel. Yeah, now it looks good. Yes, so if I close this, this is how it looks. So the next thing that I have to do is I have to style the further for its responsiveness. So I'll just write the media all and max width 1279 pixel. So for this, I just have to do one thing, that for the heading I want it to have a maximum width possible. So I'll write the heading, right? The heading, I want it to have a maximum width of 100% because we earlier restricted it to 80%. So, and for the mobile, we'll have to do few more things, which is 767 pixel. For mobile, first of all, we'll have to change the background cover because CRED has changed it in your mobile site. So yeah, from here I'll have to take this from here. That's it. So this is our CRED story, CRED dot CRED story, and just paste it here. So the background image is changed. Next to this, I want to change the font size and everything of the heading. So I'll say font size of 55 pixel will do, and line height of 55 pixel as well. Similarly, I want padding bottom to be of 80 pixel because in mobile there should be some gap between the story and the title, obviously. So now for the para, the changes that I want is I want the font size to be of 15 pixel. Similarly, for my story wrapper, I want flex direction to be of column, and I want the padding to change from top and bottom, which is 70 pixel, and horizontally it should be 0 pixel. Similarly, the next change is the CRED story heading wrapper, which was earlier restricted. Now if you'll see here, this is restricted here, so I'll have to change it as well. So I'll say CRED story heading wrapper, this should have a width of 100%. Now I just have to give 100% width to this details as well, and we are done with the story component as well. Where is it? CRED story detail, yes, width of 100%. That's it. Yep. So we are done with the CRED story component as well. So far so good. The entire application has built up. Now we just have to create one more component and we'll be done with the CRED's clone. And the final component is this app rating. Even in this app rating, I'm just creating till this component. I'm not adding the reviews and everything. So we'll just create these two part and this button, and we'll write made with overreacted, and we are done. Let's start with the app rating component of the application. So let's go to components and let's create a folder called app rating, and the very first file that we'll need is index.js RAFCE. Let's call it app rating. Let's close this thing, and here app rating, I'll create a CSS file as well. Call it app rating.css. I'll import it inside this file. I'll call it app rating.css. Let's give some space, and inside our home page at last I'll import it app rating, and that's it. So now let's dissect the app rating first of all. So as you can see, this is a flex. It has two similar components, and each of the component has two parts, a button and this thing. Here we have a rating, platform, and stars. This is basically just an image, both of this, and there is a prefix in the buttons. You remember we gave a property to our button here when we created this common component, not this one, this common component. We gave a property called prefix. So whatever prefix is there, just put it before the button text. So these are the prefix, the image of the Play Store and the App Store icon. So great then. So let's start building this particular component. Let's go to app rating. I'll close this thing. Inside the app rating, the very first screen that we'll need is obviously the first div is max width to maintain the padding and everything, and let's make it a flex. As I just said that it's a flex, and a default class of app rating to style it further. Now inside app rating, we have two blocks. So each of the block, I'll call it as not div, sorry, div. Okay, now this div, the class name is app rating block, and let's call it as flex as well, because each of the block is displayed in flex, be it column or be it not. So since it is in column, so we'll also make it flex column. So this is it. So inside this, each of it, there is another further division. So there are going to be a lot of divs in this particular component. So this is again a flex. So this component will hold the rating and the platform. So the first div will hold the rating and the image of the rating, the image beneath it. So let's call it 4.8 first of all, and let's give it a class name of app rating value. Now if you'll see, the value and the image are on top of each other. So obviously this is a flex and this is a flex column, a common class again. So in next to this 4.8, we have an image here. The source is the source, I'll have to copy it from here. Copy image address. Source is this, and next to source, I'll give it a class name of let's say app rating stars. Close this one, and if we'll go and look here, yep, 4.8 and the stars are here. We have to style it further. We'll style it. So next to this image, we have another div which is the platform name. So app, and let's give it a break here, app store. Why break? Because you can see there is a break here. So this break tag will bring the store to the next line. So let's give it a class name which is app rating platform. Great then. So after the platform, if you will notice, there is a button as well, but the issue with the button is that it is only visible in desktop. This particular button is not visible on mobile. So we have a class for that, not an issue. So the class name is non-mobile, which means only screens larger than mobile. So inside the non-mobile, we need a button, and the button text says download the app. Great. and let's give it a custom class as well. If you remember, we also passed a property called custom class because these buttons have lesser padding as compared to any other buttons. So custom class, so let's give it a custom class of app rating button. So let's close this. Now we also need a prefix here, the image, this image of Apple icon and the Play Store icon. So let's give it prefix. We'll have to define a function here. Let's call this function as get iOS prefix. Now this will give us the prefix for iOS icon, right? So this will give us return. Okay, I'll have to write the correct spelling. Return img. The source for this is this particular icon. I'll copy it from here, copy image address, save it, and let's give it a class name app rating icon so that I can style it later as well. App rating icon. Why is it not saved? Because what's the error? Parsing 29th line. Okay, here. Get iOS prefix, and we have to call this as well. So upon calling this, okay, so this is done. Now if I look at here, you can see the button is here. We just have to style the button accordingly. App Store icon, text is here, rating is here. So what we will do, we will replicate this block again, and we will just change the data inside this. So upon replicating the block, we just have to change the values here, 4.8 to 4.7, app to play, and yep, the stars are same, I guess. I'll just copy the image address from here. I'll replace it here. The next thing is get iOS prefix. I'll have a get Android prefix as well. Const get Android prefix. Now this will return as an image to be used as a prefix for my button. So this will be a return where I will use img, and the source needs to be this, copy image address, and the class name needs to be app rating icon. So I'll just close this thing. Get Android prefix instead of iOS prefix, let's call it Android prefix, and we are done. As you can see, both of the blocks are created. Now for mobile, particularly for mobile, there is another button. Like these two divs are not visible. Like if you'll see here, these two buttons are not visible, but there is another button. So for our mobile as well, these two buttons will not be visible, but we need one more button. So for that, what we will do is we will create another div, and we will give it a class name of only mobile so that it is visible only in mobile. And here we will call our button. We don't have to pass any prefix or any custom class. We just have to write download the app. So that's it. The HTML part is done. Only mobile. Okay, so it's a flex, so it must be visible here. Download the app is visible here. Now we just have to style these components, and our app rating will be done. So to start the styling, the very first component that will be the div that will be styling is app rating. So for app rating, I need a padding of 200 pixel vertically and 0 pixel horizontally. Also, I want to justify content space around, which means I want it to be equally distributed in the entire available space. So just like this, exactly. Next is app rating value that I have. App rating value. The value font size I want to be 160 pixel. Now 160 pixel I took it from CRED. I inspected it and checked it. The line height I want to be 120 pixel. Then padding right I want to be 16 pixel, and the font weight is bold. So for that we'll have to give it font weight of 700. Now you can see 4.8, 4.7 looks good. Now after value we have app rating stars. App rating stars, which is looking quite weird right now because of the size. So I'll just have to fix the width and height. So the width is 179 pixel and the height is 28 pixel. Height is 28 pixel. Yep, the stars look good. The next thing that we have to style is the platform name, this App Store and Play Store. So this is app rating platform. So the platform name has a font size of 60 pixel and it has a line height of 55 pixel, which means the gap between app and store, play and store. Similarly, we have a padding left of 16 pixel. There should be some gap between the number and the platform name, and it is also bold. So this, okay, font size, not size, weight. Yep, now it looks good. Next up, we just have to style the buttons that I have there, but before that, let's give some space between this and the button. So let's say app rating block, and let's say margin bottom is 70 pixel. Great. And then finally after this, app rating icon. Let's give this icon a height of 30 pixel. And also let's give it a margin right of let's say 6 pixel, so that there is some gap between these two. Perfect, this looks really great. So after the icon, we have to style the button, the custom class that we passed. For that, we have to style it. So padding I want to be 15 pixel and 30 pixel, which is important so that it can overwrite the other properties. Font size I want to be of 20 pixel and margin top I want to be of 40 pixel. Now if you will see, there is some gap and the buttons look pretty neat. Just one thing, I have to make it responsive. So now in order to make it responsive, I'll have to write some media queries. So the very first media query that I'll write is media all and max width obviously 1279 pixel. And for this I want the app rating, the entire block, to reduce the padding. So it will be 100 pixel vertically and 0 pixel horizontally, because our max width class is taking care of the horizontal padding. App rating value, it looks quite big in tablet and all, so I'll say the font size is again 100 pixel. And finally before that we have stars. For the stars I want the width to be 120 pixel and height to be 18 pixel. This is more of a trial and tested thing. You can check different values to look which is looking suitable as per your design. So next up we have app rating platform. So for the platform I want a font size of 45 pixel and I want a line height of also 45 pixel. So okay, now I'll just replicate the media queries for mobile as well. And for mobile, which is 767 pixel, here I want the padding to be of 70 pixel instead of 100, and I want to change the direction. Now I don't want it to be in this way, so I'll change the flex direction to column. Now as you can see, it is on top of each other, and that's it. We just have to change certain values, it to be 90. App rating stars is fine. The platform here, I want font size to be of 31 pixel and I want line height to be of 32 pixel, and I want the text align. I want just align self center. I think align self center will work. Align self center should work. Yep, now it's working. So far so good. Our rating component is also done. We just have to add a footer. Most of our work is done now, like entire work is done. I'll just go to common, I'll create a footer here and I'll create index.js. I'll say RAFCE, I'll say footer, I'll say made with, I'll copy fire emoji from somewhere, fire emoji, This is the most fun part, the feeling that you get when you complete a project uh, is irreplaceable. So made with fire by overreacted. It's been more than 4 or 5 hours since I've been recording. It's 3:20 a.m. right now, and it feels good that I have completed it. I'll just give it some class name, absolute center, and also a class called footer. So great, then I'll just import this next to my app rating, and the final thing that I'll do is to style my footer here. So style my footer. So in order to style my footer, I'll just give it a few classes so that it looks good. So I'll give it font size of 40 pixel. I'll say font weight of 600, and I'll give it a padding of, let's say, 0 pixel, 0 pixel, and 20 pixel. Similarly for this, I'll say footer 32 pixel, dot picture font size of 32 pixel, and finally just one more class, 20 pixel, dot font size, dot footer font size of 20 pixel. That's it. Our application is done right now. We just have to do one more thing, which is to change our public data. I'll just go here and I'll change it to what CRED it. Let's just say CRED. You can change the font awesome icon from here as well. I'll just do it right now. So the title is this. I'll replace the title, and the logo here is you'll have to find the logo from somewhere, which is this one. So just change the logo, and yeah, your app looks exactly like CRED's. And this is the mobile screen where we have to test. Everything is working fine. Well, this has been the video from Overreacted. It's been a while since I created my last video, which was a clone of Zomato. I'll be bringing up more videos on web APIs, intersection observer API, canvas API, and so on. And also I'll be cloning Indian startups. So in order to get the updates, do subscribe the channel if you haven't. Comment if you have any doubt, if you want to learn anything, if you want me to clone anything, I'll surely do it. And above all, thanks for watching if you have been watching the entire journey. That's it. Thank you. Bye bye.